na 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 na
Square
na
round
na.
You know, you need to tune in if you want to hear So we Chad, Josh, Dmitri, and Marcus every Friday.
It's the Square Round Table.
Tune in.
It's the Square Round Table podcast. Tune in every Friday. Let's have a blast. I know at work you had a long day. Just relax and tune in.
Make sure you tune in weekly, every Friday. MajorsOnMusic.com. We also tune on Spotify, iHeartRadio, and YouTube. So yeah.
Hey, what's going on, my freaks and geeks? We are the Square Roundtable Podcast. I want to thank all of our viewers and listeners for coming out to listen to us tonight. We really appreciate it, guys. It's been a great journey, and we're loving that you're with us every step of the way. But yes, guys, tonight, this will be our 9th podcast of 2021, and we have a very special guest with us. Please welcome actor, musician, podcaster, and the host of our very own The Sophisticated Psychos Experience, Mr. Nicky Scorpio.
Hey, what's going on?
What's going on,
Pleasure
sir?
to be here. Thank you guys for having me. You guys are awesome.
Thank you.
You are awesome, man.
Takes one to know one.
Right?
Definitely.
Yeah. Word.
But yeah, Nicky, me and you, and the guys, we stay in contact all the time. We've been talking back and forth on Instagram, trying to get everything right for the radio show. And once again, man, we're so happy to have you on Major Zone Music. It's amazing. And to have you a part of the Score Roundtable podcast, I'm loving every bit of that. But I kind of want to know, just for you, because we haven't had a chance to actually converse yet. It's been totally on Instagram. So how have you been holding up, man? We've had a pandemic, we got all kind of crazy stuff going on.
Man.
How have you and, Katie been holding up, like with mental health wise and all that good stuff?
That is a good question, and a question I feel like people need to ask all of their friends and all the creative people around them. For me, like the focus with this, first and foremost, like it's definitely been going in the direction of the flow. So for example, when I say that, what I mean is, like, in simple terms of, if I'm tired to the point where like I don't want to be outgoing and talk with people or like do something, then I'll listen to that. I won't just keep on going. There are times creatively where it's good to work through it. However, if you're at the point where like you feel like you're burnt out yourself, then you need to take those days and communicate with people that say like, hey, I'm just going to take a day for myself. Like Katie says, I'm going to take a K day. And I admire that about her because, I come from a background of like, you have to work, you have to hustle, you have to keep on going. And a lot of times guys will do that, where like we feel like we have to be tough and we have to be strong all the time. And so, first and foremost, it's about like the balance, right? Of when it's go time, it's go time. And then when it's not, like to be okay with just chilling and just taking time. And then secondly, when I'm not making music, when I'm not working on the show, when I'm not doing anything creatively, I'm educating myself. Like University of YouTube is amazing.
Certainly.
Instagram Reels and TikTok have a lot of good. I was talking with somebody about this today, that like Instagram Reels and TikTok are like, it's like inside information you're getting from people, where if you follow the right hashtag. So I specifically follow certain hashtags. I had to restructure my social media a couple years ago. And then because I'm like, okay, cool. Like I'm going to be friends with the algorithm versus getting a bunch of people with like phony filters and like artificial lifestyles that are like, hey, look at this beautiful lifestyle. And the camera turns off and they're like, I hate you. It took you 50 photos to take that photo. You're disgusting. I hate you. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know how it is behind the scenes. And for me, authenticity is everything, right? And so for me, what I've been doing is educating myself. So primarily learning, because it started really from wanting to outsource stuff and not getting the result that I wanted. And so like I went on YouTube and I'm like, I'm going to learn how to edit videos. I had an award-winning editor give me back a video that looked like it was from like the 90s, and not in a cool way. Like I'm like, yo, like there's so much glow effect on this video. Like I can't even like see myself, and so I went on the journey, and I found some amazing people. Like I found this cat, Max Novak, who's like, here's everything that I know how to do. Here's step by step how you can can do it, you know. And then the same thing on the music side of things, where I lead with singing, songwriting, and I enjoy producing. I've been producing for several years, and you know, I went on a journey and I learned from people saying these are the plugins, these are the steps you can take, so it's easy, so it's fun and it's cool. And so now my focus is on really giving that back to people. So in entertainment, what I'm doing is promoting mental health, is promoting vulnerability, is promoting education, making education cool in 2021. So you're not thinking of like a teacher with an old, outdated, like lie history, whatever false history kind of thing, of more so of saying like you can use education so that you can be bulletproof. And so that's really my focus right now.
That's so
That's
awesome.
cool.
And
Yeah.
we definitely got to, yeah, we got some stuff coming up. But something that you said was really interesting to me. You like to focus on, and that's one thing that I like about you. You like to focus on mental health, and that's very important for you. So one question that I have that is really something that I see over and over again, is constantly something that I think about. How important is it to monitor the media that you take in, as far as social media, as far as what you see on television? Like, how important is that for your mental health? Because you talk about how you had to pretty much change the whole mechanism of what you took in on Instagram.
Yeah.
So how did that affect you personally?
I feel like a lot of times people don't realize that social media is edited, right? Like when Katie and I were living in Los Angeles, we connected with somebody who owned an agency to help Instagram, you know, influencers and work with people to help build up people's social media. And in that world, and really in Hollywood, behind the scenes, for people that are in entertainment, that have been in Hollywood, that know how it is, like you can't put it into words. And so there's a lot of inauthenticity, there's a lot of toxic behavior, there's a lot of abuse that goes on. And then people that are like young and impressionable watch that, and then they get into this comparison trap, right? Where you're like, oh, yeah, I'm not traveling, like this person has like millions of dollars, and they're doing that, and I don't have that. And so therefore, because right now I feel unhappy, I need to do whatever it takes to get to that place. And one of the biggest traps is when you become desperate, when you get to the point of like, I got to do whatever it takes to get to this place. Like there's a balance within wanting something and having the faith and doing it in a way so that, one, you don't burn yourself out, two, you don't burn any bridges, but three, so that you have good people around you. Like you have a squad, and you're human, right? We're all human. We all have our good sides and our bad sides, and we have our community. And when you have somebody in your team who doesn't get who you are at a root level, and doesn't get that you're human, and that like people get mad, they get angry, they get sad, people come, people go, life happens, right? And to be able to, you have to have, one, when you're on social media, you have to understand that this is a powerful tool. Like if you have any kind of sickness, if you have any kind of disease, if you have a family member who has any kind of chronic illness, you can go down a cool rabbit hole, and you can just like start searching for holistic cures. You can learn about how your body operates. You can learn about like why you feel tired, or why you feel angry, or like what trauma means, or like what depression means, and what your ancestors studied, and like what our ancestors studied, and like how you can connect like with shamans and people that can do things that modern medicine said isn't possible. So for me, like social media is transformational. It's a matter of saying like, I'm going to stop looking at this just to get like my 15 seconds of entertainment, and I'm going to look at it in times where the world is upside down, and I'm going to come out of this pandemic, and I'm going to rise up, and I'm going to be ahead of the curve, instead of sitting here and being like, well, the news told me the life was terrible, and look at this cool video of people fighting, and let me just look at another video of people fighting. Like no, like,
yeah,
you know what I'm saying? So for me, that's what it is.
No, that makes a lot of sense.
Go
ahead, Dmitri.
I was just saying, like, I was gonna make a point. Is like, so you think social media is not like all bad? You think it's like this is how you use it. It's pretty much what you're
Correct.
saying.
Yeah, definitely. Like for example, on YouTube, the main videos now, because again, the algorithm kind of shows us based off of what we click. Like it shows us more.
Yeah.
So the level, like what I'm capable of doing, like if you go on my Instagram page and you listen, and if you go onto my SoundCloud and on our website, if you actually listen to the beats, I produce all of them, I mixed all of them, I edit everything. We're an in-house, we're completely and totally like we do all of our own stuff. We don't outsource. And you can actually hear, besides like the melodies, you can actually hear the quality of everything is getting better and is improving. And I have the same hardware. I have a MacBook, I have a microphone. I'm investing in myself. I'm taking the time, and I'm studying and I'm learning from people who have the wisdom, and I'm gaining insight. And then from there, the same thing with my mental health. Like we have a friend of ours, Shaman Durek, Durek, at Shaman Durek, and he has a podcast and he does meditations on his podcast that will transform you. So what I'm able to get from social media is transformation, because again, as you guys know, like tomorrow something could happen on the news or in politics and everything could change. So we need to go past those obstacles and get to a place where we're completely and totally self-sufficient, and so that we're holding ourselves accountable instead of being like, you said this or you did this, so therefore now my life is ruined. No, I have peace, I'm good.
Yeah, I totally
That's
agree
what's
with that. I
up.
agree with that 100%.
I,
Like, yeah,
heck
Yeah.
that
yes.
was perfectly
Uh-huh.
said. Like, I agree with that 100%.
Yeah, but yeah, Nick, like more on like transformation with social media and like just learning to like just improve on yourself based on what other people's advice and stuff. Has it ever gotten to a point for you where like all the advice is like started to turn into jealousy and you just kind of just pull back from Instagram and stuff like that?
I think when we're looking at people that live what looks like to us to be a successful life, again, I said this earlier, there can be a comparison game. And when you start comparing your life to other people, you miss out. It's like I'm not a big reader, but this is an analogy that I use. Like people will look at their life and think that like one day or 1 week or 1 month is like the entire book or an entire chapter, when it's actually just a page. And if
Yes.
you can have optimism and not just put on a smiley face and be like everything's cool while your house is just like burning down to the ground, but
Literally, this is
but-
fine, right?
but to be like, okay, cool, like this hurts right now, this is hard right now, this is difficult right now, however, this is going to be an opportunity for me. Think and Grow Rich, The Science of Growing Rich, these are two books that talk about this, where it's like when you don't get the job interview, you thank God because there's a better opportunity for you. And that's been my mindset of like when things look the craziest, I'm always like, yo, I'm going to get so blessed from this. I'm going to level up. I'm going to learn so much. I'm going to gain so much insight from this. And so to answer your question, I would say um, my focus on social media is more so I need to have a valid source. Like I need to know that whoever is talking with me and is sharing information with me is coming from a place of like being authentic versus just sharing some information and you don't know like where they're getting their information from. Credibility is super important to me.
Oh, like an informant, like somebody that's like, there to teach more so.
Well, it's like, for example, like if you're studying somebody, let's say that you're into beauty, right? Let's say that you're into like taking care of yourself, self-care, and somebody's telling you that, you should use some kind of a product because this product is better for you, versus for me, like I learned from a friend of ours where it's like you can use Black African soap, and Black African soap is amazing and it's very, very affordable. However, you need to know the right source to get it from, right? When it comes to things, when you're dealing with wellness, when you're dealing with like our like health and wellness, you go to Whole Foods and it says that it's organic, but you don't know they're spraying pesticides on it. So for me, it doesn't get overwhelming. For me as an introvert, it's exciting. I'm a research guy, and so I like to go into those modes, into those zones where I'm like, I'm going to find the most credible source. I'm going to find the person who's valid, who knows what they're talking about. And I'm not just going to accept something at face value and be like, this is it. I'm going to stay curious and I'm going to keep on learning. And then when I learn that information, then I'm going to pass it along. Like like humans are supposed to. You're not supposed to learn secrets and then be like, all right, cool. It stops here. Like share it.
No, completely,
Yeah,
completely.
I agree with
That's
that.
good stuff, man.
Yes.
Yeah.
Word. Yeah.
Completely. And that's one thing that I really like. I keep hearing that over and over again. Like every time we have somebody on our show, they kind of like echo you with saying that self-teaching is incredibly important. You know, it's like you can go to school, you can get however many degrees you want to, but nothing really beats going out there and learning for yourself, like using. And that's the thing that I like about things like TikTok. I see my mother do it all the time on TikTok and social media, like Instagram. You know, yeah, seriously, like there's avenues that you can go down that, you know, that are rabbit holes that are good. You know, there's some things like with holistic medicine, with things going on with our government, with things going on with everyday people, you know, just, and it's not all negative, you know, but like you said, you got to figure out a way to navigate it. You don't just want to go right. You
don't get
just
lost in the sauce.
Don't get lost in the sauce. Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. Don't get lost in the sauce.
Yes.
And there's a lot of different people out here that have those avenues for people to learn and to get information from, and like like learn something new every day. So that's kind of what I wanted to go into with you. I wanted to talk about Scorpio Rising. Like, what was your reason for starting that podcast, and like what kind of stuff do you talk about on Scorpio Rising?
Thank you. Yeah. So you know, within the world of entertainment, what I started seeing it because God gave me this really interesting gift where a lot of times people would share things with me that they don't normally share. And so, you know, I'm going into these environments and in these circles where you have people that have vast amounts of wealth, or you have people that will like hate a certain kind of person, whether it's like what their sexual preferences, the color of their skin, or just like any kind of values that they have. And then on that side of the spectrum, people that have more kind of like angry beliefs will share things with me like, oh, you're one of me, so you agree with this, right? And I'm like, no, but I can sit there and I can speak for certain people because I have such a diverse background. I have the life, the family that I was born into, the neighborhood that I was born into. I have such a broad perspective on what normal is. And so I started to realize that in entertainment in Hollywood, you have these talented people. Like we lost a lot of people from drugs and from mental health issues that were super, super, super talented. And there are people that are deteriorating now as we speak, and they don't have good people around them. And I thought, you know, people think that celebrities and thought leaders and artists and musicians at all different levels have it all figured out of this like cool life where you just go into the studio, you just press record, or like you just go up on the stage and you just start talking and everybody loves you. And they don't realize how human people are. And now more than ever, more people want to be entrepreneurs. People don't want to do data entry. People don't want to have boring lives. They want to be able to tell their story. And so I thought, you know, the one thing that really connects all of us is vulnerability, and everybody has a story to tell. And that, you know, for me, it's an encouragement to tell people that like when you open up, when you put down your wall and say like, this is going to be hard for me because like I've been beat down, I've been hurt so much, that when you can actually be open and share your story, that you get real connection with people. And I feel like we need to have more of that, because there's so much. You were just talking about, you know, with research and with conspiracies, there's so much false information, and people, like there was something I was watching the other day where it's saying like our president isn't helping people in Texas at all, and I'm like, that's not true though. Like that's not true. That's a piece of the pie, and that people are angry and they're frustrated because it's confusing and they want instantaneous results and they're not feeling like they're being heard and acknowledged. And so that person takes that and is like, yes, I'm angry, and this logically is a possibility, and so therefore I'm just going to run with this, and then it spreads, right?
It becomes an echo chamber.
Right. And so for me, it's like, I want to be able to have difficult conversations with people so that we can, maybe I don't understand you, right? Like maybe I don't know what it is to walk in your shoes, but I can understand the emotional aspect of it. I can understand what it feels like to feel unheard. I know what it feels like to feel unloved and unwanted, and to feel angry, and then we can have a conversation and connect from there. versus what it's been. Because again, like I was surprised when I lived 4 years in Los Angeles, and the culture there is so weird, because you have people that are going to these like mansion parties, and it's like you have people that have friends who are stylists, and so they're getting free clothes, and then they're judging people who don't have those same clothes, but they didn't pay for it. And there's like this weird kind of culture of just like, people ask you, what do you do for a living, within the first two questions. And it's like, you go to Atlanta, and Atlanta's like, what are you about? Oh, you're different. Oh, you're weird. Oh, that's dope. Like I love you. Okay, cool. Like, what do you stand for? And so for me, the podcast started with the same thing with the music that I'm working on, which is like, when you have a friend who comes into your life who's like, yo, like, I know that you've been beat down. I know that you just got out of a bad relationship. I know that you're hurting, but you got to open up the curtains. You got to take a shower, put some clothes on, go outside, get up. Like, I know you're hurting. Just get up, just go. Come on, just go. And to have that kind of energy to encourage people to be like, I know it's hard, but like, tell your story, be open and be vulnerable, and let's build a community around that.
Nice.
Yeah, definitely good stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
So one thing though, I wanted to know specifically, how did that community affect you though? Because I know you're a professional voice actor, you're a professional actor, you've been in that community, the Los Angeles life. Like, how did it take a toll on you anyway? Was it something that you embraced, or was it something that you wanted to get out of? Like, what was that whole situation?
People who are not from LA who go there, a lot of times I've had this conversation with people. LA, Hollywood specifically, not LA, because I don't want to badmouth Los Angeles. The Hollywood culture is very based off of networking, right? So again, like I said earlier, people connect with you, and right away it's, what do you do? And so I started telling people I did data entry so they'd leave me alone. Like what's that song on TikTok? You ever heard that song? I'm an accountant. And it's just like, what do you do? What accountants do? It's super funny, but it's that same kind of thing of I'm not like, I want to know what you stand for. I want to know what you're about.
I get it.
Hollywood for me, because again, in Katie, in our dynamic, I came into her life, and we're both very independent. We're both our own entities, and used to kind of like doing our own things. And I came into her life, and she introduced me to certain people and places. And one of the gifts that I got from Los Angeles was I got a lot of healing. I also got a lot of insight. I learned about the power of being an introvert. So for example, a lot of music producers are introverts, that you could just like live in your cave and just be indoors like for hours. I'm like, oh, there's a pandemic going on. I'm sorry, I didn't realize. Like I've been in my house like for hours. Yeah.
Anyway,
naturally.
right.
Oh, you get to stay inside. Like I got you. Cool. That introverts are naturally more internal. That we like to observe, and we observe. And so, Katie would introduce me to people, and she would say like, this is this producer or this director or this artist, whatever he's or she has done this and this and this. And I go right into the eyes, and I'm really good at reading people, and I look for things that other people don't look for. I'm looking at the body language. If somebody's arms are crossed like this, I'm like, all right, that person is closing off their energy. They might feel insecure or something like that. Or if I'm speaking about something that's real and they cross their arms, I'm like, this person's completely checked out of this conversation. So therefore, I'm not going to exert my energy. After conversations, I would say, did you notice how this person, because we would go into meetings and we would say, we're all about ethics, morals, and values. And we want to bring that into all across the table for everybody. It doesn't matter if you're straight, gay, black, white, brown, everything. Like we want everybody, all the kids, all the families to know what it is to feel loved. And we want to promote that in popular music. And the more that we make it cool, everybody else has to compete with that. Supply and demand will make it so that everybody's competing to be a better person. It's a simple concept, right? And you would see people literally walk away. I'm like, did you notice that person walked away? Did you notice that person checked out? Did you notice that when you were saying who you really were in different settings, in different environments, that like you had had an agent that would say like you should get Botox, and I'm like, you don't need Botox. Botox needs you. Like you need to remove these people from your life that, you know, I don't want to come into your life and be this like, I don't operate from a place of jealousy. I operate from a place of like, I see the real you. I see the golden you. And, you know, you need to have people around you, again, the people that get you, people that understand you and celebrate you, of like, yo, you're a little weird, you're a little eccentric, but like you're dope. And I get your vision and I see you and I hear you and I want to make it work. That like, I had to constantly protect Katie from people that were like, oh, you're a beautiful girl who knows people. And I'm like, that's like, where'd you get that idea from? Like she's self-made and she's nurtured these relationships for 10 years. And you want to just come in and just take her contacts and take advantage and tell her to be a cute, quiet little girl and go off in the corner? No, you're not on the guest list. You're uninvited. See you later. Nice to know you. You know, and so for me, Hollywood was like weird in the sense of, you get people that are so desperate. You get people that just, they want fame so much that they lose sense of who they are. And for me, when I came back to New York, and I'm in the Bay now, but when I left Los Angeles, I was like kissing the ground in New York, because I would rather somebody not like me than hang out with me for years. Like people will follow you and hang out with you for days and weeks and months and years and not even like you as a human being, but just want to keep networking with you. I'm like, yo, you don't see a problem in that? Like, you know, so that's for me what it was learning how to navigate within that, so that I can have powerful conversations with VPs and CEOs and people who are at that level who are toxic, and know how to navigate that. And then also, again, most of the time was just focused on healing. I was just going to ceremonies. I was meditating. I was like, I'm going to crack my code. And Los Angeles, definitely, if you're a forward thinking person, it definitely has that. But again, you have to know the credible sources.
True.
Right.
True.
But it made me think like culturally, it's like individuality is kind of formed through social media instead of people actually working with what they had at birth. Like there's no individuality in, like you said, Botox or
Right.
so any kind of body modification or something that isn't real. May not be body modification, but
Yeah, and that's another thing that for me, why I started the podcast and why I'm doing what I'm doing, is because I was raised by women, and I feel like men and women equally have different challenges that they face. For me though, like women are the creators, women birth this world, right? And excuse me, and that when you have a culture, people literally, like, again, it's supply and demand. When one person sees that somebody did something any kind of way and they made money doing it, people will follow. And
Seriously.
I feel like that's a good thing. However, it's a double-edged sword, where you have a culture right now of people that don't realize like there's not a reset button, where it's like, I don't like the conversation you're having, and so I'm going to replace you. You see this in Hollywood and acting and entertainment too, where it's like I started noticing with Katie too, where she would go to auditions and they'd say like, how many followers do you have on social media? And it's like, no, you mean how long have I been acting for? How many years of experience as a talented actor do I have? That's what you meant, right? No, they want to know how many followers. Oh, you have 100,000 followers. Oh, you've rapped a karaoke in a bar in like Wyoming. Okay, cool. You have 100,000 followers. Oh, here's a record contract. Okay, cool. You know, so for me, I see that there's a lot of issues that are going on, and everybody kind of just says like, yeah, this thing's messed up, but nobody's really doing anything about it. So I'm like, all right, like, if everybody's gonna, I'm not saying that nobody's doing anything about it. I'm saying in popular culture, it is not promoted to have a family. It is promoted. The Kardashians, the PR person several seasons ago had one of the sisters get a divorce to get back with the husband for ratings. Like if you don't see how that affects a teenage child, then like open your eyes up. Like we're in a culture that is promoting division, that is promoting fear, that is promoting chaos. I love World Star, I love websites like this. At the same time, like we're watching videos where instead of helping somebody who's getting attacked and who's getting beaten up, we're pulling out our phones and we're pressing record because we just
Yeah.
we want to get those views. And
Yeah.
there's a balance within that. It's good to expose it. I love that people are like, oh my God, look at all this, look at all these police. I guess people were actually right. For centuries they were saying that the police were. It's like, yeah, that's good, that is
Yeah.
good. However, there's a balance within that where it's like, yo, like you don't fame. I wish people could see behind the scenes. You get around these people and they don't care about you. Like they're not good people. They just want to maintain their image and stay with their rented cars and rented lifestyle. No, thank you.
No,
Yeah.
that's true. You made a good point. I actually want to pose a question to you. Like, what do you think? How do you think the entertainment? I don't even really want to say entertainment, but just creative industries in general are going to pan out from this, like the sort of thing of not hiring people or not paying attention to people for their talent, but paying attention to them for how popular they are. Like, because I've seen that it's really been a theme. Like, I don't want to name any names in particular, but there's been guys like there are rappers out there that they really don't really have that skill, but they became popular on social media, so now they have a career. I just saw a thing on TV the other day. It was an actor. He was in a movie with Nick Cage. I can't remember what the name of it is, but he became famous off of social media, and and now he's in movies. So I'm just like, and I know there are people out there that have this is their craft. So how does that work where you have like popularity versus craft? Like, what do you think that's going to do to these industries further down the road?
I think people need to not be jaded about it. I think that people need to be excited about it and do their research and educate themselves. I think a lot of times, like I've talked with the mastering engineer who was saying, he's like, oh, these kids with their laptops. I'm like, hi. Like people don't want to bag groceries. I don't know if that's a news flash for you or not, but like people don't want to have jobs where they're working at Taco Bell and McDonald's, bro. Like realistically. So I think people need to adapt with the times. I also see that there's a lot of people that are kind of combating that. Like, for example, there was a guy that we were talking with today that basically started up a subscription-based record label. So if you need, right, that crazy. So if you need graphic designing, if you need visuals, if you want to connect with people, if you want to place your songs and your music, there's a company that you can go to, and I can definitely share that with you guys so you can share with the people. But stuff like that, there are people right now, like this is a conversation when people come at me with that aspect of like, this thing is scary, this thing is bad, this thing is destructive. I'm like, you're focusing on the wrong thing. Like technology is our friend. Like artificial intelligence right now for me as a musician is making my life so much more fun and creative and easier, that the applications in technology that are coming out are making it so that, like, for example, and this is a quick answer to your question. Katie and I, a couple years ago, were at this environmental thing called the Emmas, and it's all about like what's going on with our environment, like how to help with like pollution and how to stay green and stuff. And Jaden Smith was there, and she was talking with Jaden Smith because there's not really recycling. Um, and there's only like garbage when you go on to scenes in Hollywood. They don't have like an actual recycling thing. So there's all of this waste and there's all this like toxic stuff, and it affects our globe. It's an important thing that people roll their eyes about. That's like a real issue. And she was asking him, she was saying like, you need to speak out against this because like people will actually listen to you. And I looked over at him and I said, and I'll help you and I'll say something because I don't care if I get put on the list, and because like I can pull out my phone and I can have a career. And that's the thing, like when people are saying, oh, this is messed up, that people yes, it is messed up. Yes, it is messed up. You look, the movies that are coming out now, for the most part, are the greatest hits of the greatest hits of the greatest hits. It's like there's not original storytelling for like in as a generalization in filmmaking.
Mhm.
There's a lot of great stuff that is coming out though. The new movies that are coming out, there are some fantastic ones, and there's more voices and more stories being told, which are great. I would say that people need to see this as an opportunity to say, like, we listen to our radio show, which I'm grateful for, you know, that for me, I've wanted to do something as a comedy writer. I've wanted to speak out against injustice and hypocrisy. I grew up in a very diverse culture and environment. So for me, like, I know my culture. I'm aware of my skin color, but I'm way more aware of my culture and my roots. And I was raised to always know and celebrate other people's cultures. And there's beauty when you know your roots and your culture. And so for me, I'm like, I grew up in this environment, very, very humble beginnings. And I grew up in an LGBTQ home. I grew up in poverty. I overcame depression. I grew up in a broken home. I overcame that. I learned how to heal, how to face all these different things. And I've hung out with people. I have friends that are millionaires, and I have people who sweep the floor, who are the janitor, and everything in between, you know. And for me, there's an opportunity within that. You have to see everything as an opportunity to be able to you know, you can do anything independently now, and that's dope, man. I don't know, I'm kind of rambling, but I think this is the greatest time to be alive. I think this is the greatest time to be alive. And if you're not seeing that, then again, change the hashtags you're looking at, change the focus that you're cut some people out of your life, go through your phone and remove people from your phone, cut people out of your Facebook, and just like reassess where you're at in life. Cause this is it, man. We're in history. Like it's awesome.
Oh, it's happening.
Yeah, definitely.
100%.
Totally agree.
Yeah, for sure.
I get so excited about it, but I was just gonna say with the radio show that, you know, I'm super grateful for that, because it's like how can you tell people that there's injustice? You have to put a smile on your face, and you have to make people laugh, and you have to warm them up in order for them to like you and to appreciate you. And then you can be like, all right, cool. Now that you like me, like, let's make a change, you know? So I'm grateful for that as an opportunity, because it's
oh yeah.
Oh
yeah, no, that's actually a great way to do it. I was just talking about that. I had a conversation a couple days ago with the guys from my nonprofit organization, and we're just talking about different types of representation and different ways to put stuff out in the public. You know, like you have like me and my guys, like we're huge on superheroes, like we love it, you know. And there's and thank you, and there's a lot of people that put their message out there through that, you know, things about, like I was just talking about Miles Morales the other day, you know, and they have stuff in there talking about low socioeconomic income, you know, how that not really to spoil too much about the game, but how, you know, their environment was looked at as like, you know, expendable. You know, so and then I was looking at guys like Jordan Peele that does the movies like Get Out and stuff like that, and how a lot of his movies tackle a lot of issues that need to be talked about still. Like how, if you look at the movie Us, like that movie Us is nothing but segregation. If you look at the movie Get Out is nothing but cultural appropriation. Like all these things that now, if we were to just sit in front of a screen and talk about this kind of stuff, people aren't going to want to watch it. But if you dress it up and kind of put the pill inside of a piece of candy, you know, people, they're going to flock to it. You know, they're going to get that message. It's going to be something that people can talk about afterwards, you know. So I completely understand, like with your music and with comedy, how that's how you want to get your message across. I mean, that's the way to do it.
That's the interesting. So what you're talking about is emotional intelligence, and that's one of the things that like I learned about along the way. Is that we can have emotional intelligence. So it's one thing when you're actually smart, like when you can actually solve mathematical problems, when you can invent things, when you can cure diseases and things like that. It's another thing. Emotional intelligence is there is a way to say things to people in a way that connects and lands with them. And I learned this. Like I know that I can be eccentric at the same time. Like I've learned, and again, this is an introvert thing, that introverts, we can channel, we can get messages, we can get downloads, and if you know how to harness this energy, you can say something, you can have difficult conversations with people, and you can say something to somebody. Like I first learned about this when I was in an Uber with this guy, and he was like an old white Republican, and just assumed that I was on like the same team as him, and he was being homophobic, and he was being racist at the same time. And I was able to have a conversation of the woman that he was putting down in a roundabout way from a different angle, where he actually agreed. And I've learned, actually, earlier we're talking about Hollywood. I learned that from being in Hollywood, that like
Oh, wow.
you can say something from so many different angles, and if you can really understand the gift of communication, and how you can take what you're trying to say and frame it in such a way where you're offering a perspective to people, where it's like, oh, I didn't see it that way. I
Right.
didn't see that there was that from that perspective. I never looked at it that way. I didn't think that the person who was verbally abusing me or mentally abusing me was verbally and mentally abused 10,000 times harder than I was. That makes sense. I can have compassion for that person. Yeah.
Right. It's like it's almost like you get more flies with honey. But
Yeah.
Yes.
in the
Yes.
sense of what Chad was talking about with us and Get Out, it's like you can get people to tune into a specific topic by putting their favorite actors in it and using hashtags and
Yep.
promoting it on their favorite apps.
Yep.
That's just how you do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
completely. Oh, go ahead, Marcus. What are you about to say?
No, I was saying it literally even in Get Out, they use that as like the opening scene is a commercial for the
Right.
we together movement that they have, and it's showing, it's putting that in there in her mind and stuff. So it's like it's always been that advertisement, whether it's been social media, commercials, books, movies. It's always been that they implanted in your brain of
It's like subliminal and stuff,
yeah,
right?
it's subliminal. Like you don't even realize that you're seeing it because you're so used to watching stuff and you're so used to hearing things that you don't realize what your subconscious is seeing. And
Right.
Yeah.
it is cool because I'm really enjoying talking to you, Nikki, because like in film, you got to know a lot of the like psychological part of it too,
Yes.
because when you study film theory, the first person you study is what's his name? I can't think of it right. I think it's Freud, and you
Yeah.
actually have to like psychoanalysis, and you have to learn about how the
Yeah.
brain works, and how your mind plays tricks on you and make you think
Yes.
about, like, as for instance, like a scary movie. It's almost like your mind is telling you that you're scared, but you're really not scared.
Right.
It's
Right.
it's,
And they do
it's
that through music. They do that through
yeah,
music.
exactly,
Yes.
exactly. So
Yeah.
it's and then at the same time, people always say movies are like a therapy because it takes you out of the real world for that
Yeah.
moment, and
Yes.
then once you're done with the movie, you come back to reality. And
Right.
it's so crazy because I never would have thought about film as a thing for, like, a mental health thing, or just like, psychological, because I always used to think I just go to watch movies.
Right.
But when I actually studied it and seen how it's broken down and how all these people wrote about it and all that, I was like, wow, it's really more than just, you go to the movies or you sit down at home, and that's another thing. Now you can sit at home You can stream everything. You can look on your
Mhm.
phone. So it's like everything is right here now. So that.
Instantaneous, yeah,
Mhm.
Yeah.
instantaneous. Yeah, there's actually when I was in high school, there was a class that I had that I kind of that turned, I didn't even know it was going to become this class. It started off as a public speaking class, and then it turned into a class where we would just watch like film. We'd watch classic movies, and if you
Nice.
look at like, yeah, it was amazing. If you look at the older black and white films and the silent films, there was so much more of that. Like when you see a train coming, the train means something. When you see the
Yep.
waves, that the waves mean something. And it's fascinating when you start to understand how that kind of stuff works, and how that plays into, what we see and what we hear, and how we perceive the world.
No,
Yeah.
and you said it right there. Perception is everything. Like
Yeah.
and you talk about a class. One of my favorite pieces of literature. I can't for the life of me remember the author, but it's a short story and it's all about perspective. It's drowning, not waving. So it's like you see a guy at shore, or you see a guy in the water from the shore, and he's doing this. It's just
Yeah.
like, so from one perspective, you can be like, oh, he's waving at me, or from another perspective, you be like, oh,
Wait.
this guy needs help.
No.
It depends on perspective.
Yeah. Yeah.
It depends on perspective. So yeah, that's big,
And,
man. That's
and
definitely
that's
big.
and it's funny that you said that because like you brought up with the train. One of the first things we studied in my horror theory class was is like, okay, my professor's like, okay, I'm gonna show y'all the first scary movie that ever came out. So I'm like, okay, he finna show us like something really scary.
Yeah.
So he turned on the video, and I think it was the Lumiere brothers. I can't remember who it was, but it was literally just a shot of a train, and it was coming towards the screen, and it was just showing how a train was going like off screen. But they said that when people saw it in the movies, they
Yeah.
thought the train was coming at them, and
They
everybody
die.
stopped screaming
It's like, oh my
because nobody had ever. This is like when movies were
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
brand new, so nobody had
Yeah.
ever seen that done before,
Wow.
and
That's
Right.
amazing.
it tripped me out because I was like, "Oh yeah, he finna show us like some like extra scary or something," and then he
Right.
showed me that, and I was like, "That, like you said, it's all about the perception of what you see because to
Yeah.
them." They see that every day in their normal life, but when they're sitting there and you're looking up and you see something come at you, you like, oh, is it gonna come out at me?
Right.
So said, Chad, it's all about their perception, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, for
For
sure.
sure.
Yeah, yeah, that's definitely, yeah, perception and perspective is such an interesting thing. And that's really where a lot of the art comes from. Like Pharrell said a couple years ago that he was like, you're gonna see some of the greatest art coming out now. And what's actually exciting is, that as much as there is the recycled content, there's so many people that are telling such great stories. And you're seeing this in music and in film now, where people are really getting back to that of like, there's a story that needs to be told. Because really, like, really truly, that I think the greatest thing about film and about music is that when you see yourself and when you hear yourself, what you get as a kid can be so powerful. Like I got so much peace from music and from certain shows and films growing up, to being like, oh, there's actually room for me here in this world. And I feel like that's a gift that a lot of filmmakers and music makers and artists kind of take for granted, that we need to really understand that we have I feel like we have a responsibility and a gift and a calling to really to tell the story. Because there is, like, when you give a kid the permission to say, that I'm good enough and I'm worthy, and look, that person looks like me, then all of a sudden that kid believes they can do anything.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%. And that's
Yeah.
actually a good lead in, because I wanted to know about like you specifically with music. Like, when did you start making music, and like what are some of your influences, or like
Yeah,
musically?
so Tupac actually, because like I was raised by a very strong mom, so Tupac was actually listening to Tupac as a kid. I was like, oh, he's like me. He grew up with a mom who's strong, and he's seen certain things, and he has a story to tell, and that encouraged me. I was always a
Wow.
storyteller. Yeah, I was always a storyteller growing up. I have a very musical family. My mom always sang like soulful songs to me. You know, that I've basically have always been writing or expressing myself in some way, shape, or form. It was really a couple years ago where I really started coming into a sense of like, this is my focus and this is my direction. And it was at a time where I had this like interesting, like everything in my life kind of lined up for this perfect storm where like I was doing really well. I was in a good place. And then everything kind of like crumbled from underneath me. And I was just like, oh, like I need to find a place to live. I need to get like a job. Like all these things, like all these things shifted. And I found myself in this kind of like weird place of panic. And I have, thankfully, again, like I have good friends around me. I have good people around me, and they helped me. And within those moments, I got to the point where I was like, I'm either going to keep letting things make meaning to me. I'm either going to keep on being really high, and then something happens and it throws me off,
Oh
or I'm
yeah.
or I'm gonna have peace no matter what, and the world could be on fire and I'm gonna be sitting there with marshmallows. Okay, so and and
I like
and
that.
and
Yeah,
so
that's a
and
good
so
one.
I so thank you. And so the focus really became, with everything, where I'm like, I want to be completely and totally transparent. I want for everything to be synchronistic. I want for when you look at like my words, when you listen to the music, when you listen to the beats that I make, when you listen to anything or see anything that I create, that it's all in the same kind of realm of, people need to remember that we've been taught, while we are physically wearing masks right now, we have been taught to metaphorically wear masks, and it doesn't make any sense if you really think about it, because the only thing really truly that connects us is our story. And when I was able to embrace this like beautiful kind of breaking and death of like my ego, then I got to this place of, I'm amazing, of like I can overcome anything, that I can be in like the most craziest circumstance and I can still manifest. I haven't told this story before. In that moment, I actually got my management deal when I was working at a nightclub as a bathroom attendant. That I literally, I had a job before that where I was making like $40 or $50 an hour, and I was a brand ambassador, and it was cool. It was like a fun thing where I had like freedom, like I could create my own schedule. I was making great money. I was introducing people to health products and stuff, and I could focus on making music and doing what it is that I love. And again, everything in my life that kind of like defined me all was just like that. And I'm just like what do I do?
Right.
And I chose to be optimistic. And a friend of mine, Bob, Boogie Bob, Bob, he's cool, he's awesome. He's like a 60-year-old triple OG, old school guy, very
That's what's up.
original, one of a kind. And I've known him. I hadn't talked with him for like 7 or 8 years. And I reached out to him, and it was just like we had just talked yesterday. And he hooked me up. He reached out to somebody in Brooklyn and got me a place to live. And then he was like, I own a business, and he's like, I work with different nightclubs and different venues around New York. And he's like, this might be below you, but I can get you a job and you'll make tips and you'll make good money. And so at first I didn't want to do it. I was on the fence about it. I felt like it was below me. But then, and I talked with Katie about this, and it was a difficult thing. It was a very emotional kind of like back and forth thing. And then I was like, everything in my life is now going to be an opportunity for me. Everything in my life is going to lead to my victory. And then I was like, all right, I'm gonna go for it. And so I was working at this venue, and every day I would go there, I would have to get myself into a headspace of like, I'm not this job this is an opportunity for me. I'm a great person. I would have to like have psychological talks with myself to get myself into the headspace of like, I know my destiny and I know my fate and I know where I'm going, regardless of how my circumstances look. And so every day I would go in there and people would like me. They'd be like, yo, like the dude in the bathroom's cool. And I was making good money. I was making like $200 to $300 a night off of tips.
Nice.
And then one day and this is why I'm such an advocate of mental health, because we're constantly looking for something and a lot of times it's already there. We just need to learn how to be present with ourselves. Like if I hadn't have been in this mind space, I would have missed out on an opportunity and it would have gone to somebody else, because opportunities are always looking for a home.
Yes.
That I had a conversation with somebody, and it was just like a cool little conversation. He was just like talking with me and I offered like some, optimistic perspective. And he was like, oh, that's cool. He's like, take down my Instagram, get my Instagram. And so I got his Instagram and kind of like I followed him or whatever, didn't really think anything of it. And then I'd produced a song, and I'd recorded it and I'd gotten it to a good place. And so I sent him like a 15-second clip, and he was like, let's meet up. And we met at Warner and we inked the deal. And
Nice.
the team that I have now, they're good people. Like they get the importance of promoting love. They get how the entertainment industry can be. They know how to navigate within that. And when I have crazy ideas that are huge ideas, they're like, all right, cool. So you don't want to just cook this little appetizer. You want to make like a whole gumbo. Like you want to take all of the ingredients in your refrigerator and you want to throw all of them in the pot. All right, cool. We got you. Let's get the pot and let's get the water boiling, and I think there's something to be said within that for anybody who's listening or who's watching this, of like, you, there's always a reason to be sad. There's always a reason to be angry, and it's okay and it's healthy if you feel angry, if you feel confused, or if you feel mad or upset, or like life has treated you wrong. However, there's also something to be said about looking at something that is painful and difficult and thanking God for that, or whatever you believe in, to say like, this is an amazing opportunity for me and I'm going to authentically be optimistic about this, because I know that when I have that mindset, somebody's going to walk by and they're going to see me hustling and they're going to see me being a good person and they're going to see my spirit soul to soul, and then like, I like you, let's work, let's build something. I love that. Boom. I'm living proof.
Definitely. I like that. I like that.
I definitely
Oh,
agree.
yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
But what are you gonna say, Chad?
No, go ahead, man.
Yeah, kill it,
All right,
dude.
well, but yeah, Nikki, more on like music and stuff. How did you discover your aesthetic? Because on your Instagram, there's like all kinds of
Oh man.
imagery on your
A lot of
Yeah. I definitely I went back to my roots. I'm very, very bi-coastal. I'm very Bay Area. To anybody who's ever been in the Bay Area, it's such like, that's where everybody goes to. Like all your favorite rappers go to the Bay Area and they soak up the culture and they're like, all right, dope, and they leave and they take off. Like look at the records that like Drake put out that were very West Coast songs. Like he knows, people know. Okay, so for me, I went back to my roots. Everything that I do is always with the intention of, I want to do something that maybe it's already been done, but it hasn't been done in the way that I've done it. I've tried following trends when I was younger. As artists, we all relate. We've all done that. We're like, oh, I love this person, I want to be like them. And so you make content that's like them, and then you find your way eventually. It's a process. It's beautiful. I went back to my roots. When I was a kid, I was very, very colorful. When I got older, I became Nick. And Nick was like a serious person who had been beaten down, who had been abused, who had the trauma, who had a broken home and all this stuff. But when I was younger, while all of this stuff was happening and I hadn't processed all of it, I was Nicky, and Nicky was colorful. And I wore yellow sweatpants with a green shirt, with a blue hat, and like a Crayola box. And I went out there and I did my thing and I had fun. And so for me, I wanted to go back to the root of, I want to make music. I want to make content that just inspires people. I want for people, art and music and film and expression are meant to excite people, are meant to wake people up. Like if you look at the roots of soul, of R&B, of rock, of hip hop, people took chances and risked their lives and their safety and their freedom to listen to music, to watch film. Like at the roots of it, that's how much this art form means to us. And so for me, growing up, I used to listen to music that where my brother always played the beat. I actually owe a lot of my, and I've told him this before, I owe a lot of my inspiration to my brother. Although at the time it was very aggravating because he would listen to the same tape over and over again every single time. And it was the Beatles live at the BBC. And
Nice.
you would hear the screams. And I'm like, man, like in my mind, I was like, I want to do something that makes people feel that way. So for me, at the root of everything that I'm doing, it's that I'm making content to have people be like, what is this? Like, where did this come from? Like, I have to do something that's my own, that is so like wild and free, without thinking of social media, without thinking of followers, without thinking of like getting a blue check or pleasing anybody. That it's like, this is fun for me. So for me, the inspiration comes from just when you see good art, when you hear good music, when you see somebody who's really like tuned in and really zoned in their craft, like what's his name who passed, Chad, help me, Chad from
Oh, from Lincoln Park.
no,
Oh,
the actor.
Uh,
oh,
Chadwick
Chadwick
Boseman,
Boseman.
Boseman,
Chadwick
yeah,
Boseman.
Chadwick
Chadwick
Boseman,
Boseman.
Chadwick
Chadwick Boseman.
Boseman,
Chadwick
yeah,
Boseman.
yeah.
Bonkers,
Yeah.
such a talented spirit, and a good dude too, and like didn't advertise it, didn't like, you
Mm-mm.
know what I'm
At
saying.
all. Yeah.
And then you have Nipsey, right? Same thing. And we
Yeah.
lose
Yeah.
these people, and that's just living proof of like, we honor people when it's too late, and we need to make
Mm-hmm.
more content and take our time, instead of just being like, oh my god, that person has 5 million followers, I need to release a song right now. No, like, be like Dr. Dre, be like Kanye. These cats take like years to release the song, because when it gets released, they're like, this is going to hit so hard that it's going to be undeniable. Like,
Mm-hmm.
take your time with your art craft and with your expression, and think like, who are you? Like, why are you doing what you're doing? Are you doing it because you want to escape poverty? Are you doing it because you want to prove to people? Or are you doing it because you know what it's like to feel beat down and to feel hurt, or to feel like you didn't have a seat, and you want to show people that they're beautiful? Like, that's dope. That's powerful. And we have that, opportunity.
Yeah, and
Mm.
just to piggyback off that, nigga, it's like I always tell people, like when I talk to them, one of the most important things for you to do is to never lose your inner child, because that's one of the most important parts of your character and anything you do. Because when you lose that, you lose all of your imagination,
Yeah.
creativity, that
Right.
innocence, because you still need that to do certain things. Just like you just said, how you talked about, the younger you and how you didn't care, and you wore all the bright colors and stuff,
Right.
and the older you, like you have that duality of yourself. And when you come together, is you get these things. Like for me, with writing, a lot of times when I write, I pull inspiration from from my childhood and the stories my grandmother and all them used to tell me, because I'm from the South, so a lot of my
Yeah.
family grew up during that time when it was like, Jim Crow, civil rights. So I always hear
Sure.
those stories. So I
Sure.
take those. I love to write like in those time periods, and then I try to throw a little bit of myself in there as to like, what I would have been like in a mental state, or what I would have did at this time, or how I would have thought. And when I just write period, I always try to, you know, figure out what's the situation or what's the environment. Like you said with when you was listening to the Beastie, when your brother listened to the Beastie Boys, you could hear the crowd. I always listen to one of my favorite live albums is Sam Cooke at the Harlem nightclub. And I love to listen to it because, like you said, you can hear like the people screaming and
Yeah.
chanting and getting riled up, and you can hear like in his voice how he was really into it and connecting with the crowd. And like it got me so much that I wrote a play in college based on that night, but I put this. He was like the background of it, and I used like people and how what they were going through it that night because it just felt like a whole like
That's dope.
moment that I had to
Yeah.
catch on paper. So you
Yeah.
know, like you said, it's you gotta have that inner child in you to really like motivate. That's because that's who motivates me every
Yeah.
time. 10-year-old Marcus is like, hey man, if we used to
Yeah.
sit in the room and play with the toys and really
Yeah.
act like we was doing a whole movie and had sets and all
Yeah.
of this stuff. So that's always like my biggest thing when I talk to anybody when they try to do something crazy.
Yeah.
They be like, how do I get how do I get this idea? How do I get I said, bruh, I said, really, if you really want to know, just sit down with yourself and think back to when you was a kid and what you really used to love to do, and it'll come right to
Yeah,
you. I
because
promise.
it's raw. It's raw. You're not. It's like if somebody tells you like you're playing in a room and there's hot lava, like you're 10 years old, like you see the hot lava.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like no, this is shag carpeting or whatever. The way that you and I connect is that we were raised by storytellers. Like my
Mm-hmm.
what you're just saying with your grandmother. My grandmother and my grandfather are like at the root of who I am or why I'm doing what I'm doing because they they were very forward thinking in a time that wasn't forward thinking and were showing people God without kind of
Mm-hmm.
like forcing it onto people. And when I grew up in a home that divided and there was divorce and there was death and abandonment, that I always had the like the power of love and in my family. And they show me what's possible with the power of love. And in my family, the men in my family specifically were amazing storytellers, and I always grew up with that. Like I didn't always understand the story, but like
Mm-hmm.
I always would be so captivated and so fascinated, and I feel like we need to spend more time with our elders
Yep.
and soak up so much more of their energy, because they give us like this sense of being in this mindset of like where we're at now when we're 80, when we're 90 years old, like we're gonna have a story to tell. So like enjoy it, man.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. 100%.
Yeah,
Man.
yeah,
No,
yeah. That's
totally
dope.
agree.
no, I believe in that 100%, and it's really a lot, I guess, easier said than done in some aspects because I've even had that experience. Like it's really hard, or it was really easy to lose yourself in the pursuit of trying to accomplish something. Like I tell people all the time, for the longest, I was obsessed over just graduating from college. I was like, man,
Right.
I gotta get there. I gotta get there. And then it's like when you got to that moment and I graduated, and the next day I was still depressed. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? I was
yeah,
just
yeah.
like, so and it grew. It got to the point I was like, okay, I want to be a scientist. I gotta work a job in a lab. I gotta do this. I gotta do that.
Yeah.
I got there. I did it, and then
Right.
I still felt a little empty inside. So I
Right.
was just like, So at that point, I'm just like, okay, it's me. It's not the thing.
Right. Right.
I gotta change something. There's something going on with me. So I had to figure out what that is, and so it's just weird. It's really a weird thing. You get so caught up in trying to be something or trying to make yourself something or trying to get this goal that you kind of forget to pay attention to yourself as a person. So I know personally I've been through that,
Yeah.
so I already know.
Yeah.
It just
One of the things that like where because I relate to what you're saying. One of the things that really helped me was I really started listening to my language. I actually stopped talking and really started listening more when I would talk. I would listen when I wasn't talking. I would listen to the thoughts that I would have. I would observe them and be like, wow, that's what I believe in this opportunity. Like if I was blind, if I was completely blindfolded, like that's how I perceive this. And then I would listen to other people's truths. And then when I started doing this, it became a habit where I'm like, I'm going to start being way more careful with my words, with how I perceive things, and the language that I'm carrying and the language of people that are around me. I'm going to start being way more aware of this, because we just listen, we just speak, and then the other person nods their head, and then that person speaks and we nod their head. And I want to be more so
Yeah.
of what truths when I meet, and this is like what I do when I meet people, I listen for their truths, and then I listen to my truth off of what their truth is, and then I make sure that it's in a realm where I'm like, all right, is this good, is this healthy, and then I can go from there.
Yeah, so you try to
Yeah,
understand the
exactly.
person. Just
exactly.
it's not just
Yeah.
waiting for your turn to speak.
Well,
Basically.
it's observing. It's like in Buddhism, a lot of that is really like you're just observing. It's being non-emotional. Like when you can just non-emotionally listen to people, and just like if you were an alien coming from outer space and you came into this conversation and you came into this room and you met this person and they were speaking to you. If you were an artist and you had a blank canvas, how would you perceive this versus the you that's been on this planet for 10, 20, 30 years? How are you perceiving this? Because you're looking at through the eyes of somebody who might be tired, you might be exhausted, you might be overwhelmed by the amount of time that you've been putting into this project, into this thing, and you're not getting that result. You have to like find ways to hack your brain, to reset your mind, so that you can actually like have the fresh, canvas to create.
No, and that's the biggest part
Yeah.
of it. Exactly. Like you said, that's a lot of what I was going through, is that burnout. And I just didn't have that I wasn't looking at my situation through fresh eyes, kind of. So yeah, I truly understand that. But that's the thing I like about having these long form conversations like this. It really
Right.
gets a chance to
Truly.
truly understand or just understand the perspective of whoever we're talking to,
Yeah.
more so
Exactly.
than like a 15-minute, okay, hi
Yeah.
and bye. We get to sit down for like a couple hours and really, get a chance to see your perspective. So
Yeah,
that's
and-
why I love the
Right.
podcasting format for that.
and probably even maybe we have a difference of opinion or something like that, or you make us see a different side of the whatever we're talking about. So it's always good to meet new people and have different conversations.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
definitely.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm glad that I was raised in that kind of environment. Like I've always I've always liked being around people. I like being around people that I agree with, but I've also really been interested in being around people that like I don't see eye to eye with. And I don't
Mhm.
get like, I get when people don't like people that are blatantly ignorant, blatantly racist, blatantly homophobic, have like weird ideas that there's like some like white Jesus with like blonde hair and blue eyes roaming the desert, like using Pantene Pro V, like some marketing
Not
for
Pantene Pro V.
Hey.
Oh, good.
Yeah, but it's like, like
love it.
I'm always fascinated, and I'm like, I want to keep on learning. Like I want to keep on, I like being incorrect. I like being wrong,
Yes.
because then like
Yeah.
I can actually like learn something, and then when I get to be 60, 70, 80, 90 years old, then I'll be the happy old person in the room, not the one mad like my food's undercooked. And
Back in my day.
Back in my
what
day,
I
our
was
food was
taught,
never
man.
uncooked.
no, I choose peace. I choose happiness.
Yes,
Yeah.
man.
Word.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely, Nikki. I remember I recall this poster that I saw on the wall when I was in like the second grade. The poster said, "Listen in silent, use the same letters," and I'll never forget that. Because it's
I like
just,
that. Yeah.
yeah, because
Dope.
and it makes sense because it's like
Yeah.
and another thing, it's like one thing that me and Chad knows. One thing that mom says all the time, mom and dad say, "Children are seen but not heard."
Boy, my mama used to say that.
Yeah,
Oh,
all the time.
oh my goodness.
But
I used to be
Yeah.
so mad when she said that to me, because I was like, man, she always gotta tell me to shut up.
here's the issue. Here's the issue with that, and this goes back to what Marcus, what we were talking about, is that when we talk about people going back to their inner child, a lot of people don't realize how wounded their child is from people saying stuff like that. Like I know somebody who uses their voice consistently constantly in the line of work that they do that was told by their mom that, you know, to be quiet, to keep it down, that they're too loud, and that when they would go into a studio environment, that they would have challenges recording and actually like really using their voice, and they love using their voice, and that hurts, man. Like that's hard to like, I feel that, you know, and that a lot of people don't realize. um the reason, like, you know, with what you were talking about as far as like not feeling happy, is that the reason why we keep chasing things and we don't have this happiness is because we need to, again, we need to go back to the 10-year-old version of us constantly. We need to constantly tell ourselves, like I used to, and I don't do this as much because I've gotten to a place where I feel like pretty balanced in the journey of self-growth, that I had to consistently tell myself when I would feel insecure or when I would get anxiety, of like I would physically visualize myself as a child and would say, you're good enough. Like they're here to see you. Like you're loved. You're awesome. You got this. Like, look at how awesome you are. Look at your home. Look at the things that you have. Look at how talented you are. People love you. Look at this. And it sounds silly, but there's scientific research behind this. They actually help people who have been to war, people with severe PTSD, that they'll have you like record your voice and say positive affirmations to yourself, that like we need to parent ourselves. We need to be the parent that we feel like we deserve. We are actually our doctors. We can actually heal ourselves. And we can, you study people like Dr. Joe Dispenza, who healed himself surgically by visualizing his surgery. He visualized the actual process of what was needed, and his body repaired itself that way. That like we can, through our words, we can hurt, and through our words, we
Oh
can
yeah.
heal.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like we all have a voice, especially like even when you like when we were kids. It's like, you know, I think like the saying that mom and dad might have had, there might have been a little bit of cap in it, for lack of a better term.
Yes.
Just a little
Yes.
bit of cap.
Yeah, definitely a whole lot of
Because we all have a bit of a, you know, as a kid you had a voice. You had your own things, that don't, your own outlook on life in general. Even back then. So yeah,
Parents
definitely.
mean well. Parents mean
They
well.
mean well.
yeah.
and
Yeah.
and and
Yeah.
and, the thing is that we all of our parents have generational trauma that like we're breaking. There's something I saw, I forget where I saw it, but I love it. But it's basically like the reason why it's difficult for us is because we're breaking generational curses. Like we
Hmm.
we carry we
Mhm.
carry stuff, we carry beliefs from like centuries that we're breaking. And it's important to understand that, like, yo, we're warriors. Like we're literally changing our belief patterns and our belief systems so that like we can have generational wealth. Like that's dope. And what you're doing is you're fighting the good fight. And we have to remember that like when mom and dad, like Tony Robbins talks about this. Tony Robbins was like beat by his mom, was like physically and verbally and mentally abused by his mom. And he said, if I'm going to hate my mom, then I'm going to love her for the same reason, because of who I am is because of who she wasn't, you know? And so like our parents
Mm.
mean well. We, you know, again, we have to have the conversations with ourselves to nurture ourselves, to tell ourselves how awesome we are, and forgive our parents and our relatives, and know that they always meant well and that they love us in their own way. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah,
For
Oh no,
sure.
definitely.
For
Yeah, I
definitely.
sure.
understand that 100%. And one thing that you just mentioned that makes a whole lot of sense, that my mom talks about all the time, is just like you can learn a lesson from anybody. Just like Tony Robbins, you know, he had a situation with his mom, but you know, he learned that, you know, I guess the person he was, like you said, was the person that she wasn't. So he learned who he wanted to be through who he didn't want to be because of his mom. Like you can learn lessons from anybody. So my mom always says like to never take one person for granted, because even if you don't see eye to eye, you know, there's still something that you could take from that
You
person.
have a dope mom. Those are why, shout out to mom. Shout
She's a
out to
cool
mom.
lady.
And
Hey, she will love
and
that.
here's
Yeah.
why I say that, because you know, like, not to get too far down the rabbit hole, but I was talking on another podcast about
For
this,
sure,
that
for sure.
like reincarnation is a documented thing, that there are actually like kids that are born into this world that will talk about other parts of the world they've never traveled to. They know names of the villagers and names of the villages and details about people in the villages, and they'll go there and everybody in the village will verify that. So like who we are and how we perceive this world is so far deeper that like when we make choices, we don't realize certain things. And also like a lot of times the people that society looks down on are so happy with nothing. You know, like I know teachers who teach severely handicapped children, and you can see God. I've been in these classrooms and you see God when you look into a child's eyes that like really can't even talk, can't even really, you know, like even they have like a tube just to even like swallow, because like they're so, you know, like this kid drowned and it was brought back to life, and there was a tube put in his chest so that he could actually like swallow, and he couldn't even talk. And but you would look into his eyes and you see God. In the same way within homeless people, we look at people that they live these chaotic lives, and if you talked with whatever God you believe in or don't believe in, and he showed you who these people really were, the stardust, the internal part of ourselves that can't be defined, that we don't get to see, you'd be surprised. And you might want to reframe the way that you look at people that you judge, because beyond this world,
Seriously.
how you treat people in this lifetime, it goes into the next. You know what I'm saying? And that's yeah, it's everything.
No, I definitely believe that. 100%. That's a great point. You know, you just can't judge a book by its cover at all. You know, you can get it, especially, and that's the biggest thing, just circling around. That's the thing that social media kind of like robs us in a way. It robs us of the opportunity to actually get to know a person, because that little bit of stuff that we see in these posts, like of somebody going on vacation or whatever, there's 24 hours in a day. A 5-minute video doesn't sum up everything that went on in that day. You know, a 5-minute compilation video, it just doesn't. And you know, and I'm guilty of it sometimes. I'll look at something and I'll be like, oh God, so he or she is so superficial. I scoff at them almost, and it's terrible because I don't know that person. And I've had situations to where I just totally had the wrong perception about somebody, and I had to, you know, reassess myself. I'm like, how dare you? You know, because when I actually got a chance to know who that person was off of social media, they were great, fantastic people. So it's just, you know, it's kind of like the opposite, you know, of what we were talking about, you know, not judging the book, but social media, literally Instagram, it should say in the description, hey, you're here to judge books by their cover. You know, that's all
it is.
You're gonna get to see.
Right, there should be a disclaimer when you open the app.
No, they got a contract like, hey, none of the stuff here is real, you know, like, you know.
The difficulty with social media is that, you know, people are, the cancel culture is the biggest issue, that like we want to grow and evolve as a society, and again, we need to be able to have uncomfortable conversations with people when people, because I get surprised when I see things and I'm like, oh, that's right, not everybody grew up in this like wildly diverse life that I grew up in, and that people, you know, again, I've met people and then I've met their parents, and then like their parents will be ignorant in some way, shape, or form, and then they'll share a story about why their parent could potentially be that way, and I'm like, I wish other people, I wish there was an app that would explain to people these kinds of things, of like, you hold up, I've had this like idea for years of like, you hold up an app and you hold it over somebody with a suit and tie, and it's like this person's one paycheck away from being homeless, and you hold it up to a woman who's smiling and she's talking with another woman, and it's like this woman's mom has cancer or something like that, that if we really knew behind the scenes of how connected we are, that we wouldn't want to just cancel people and just lash out at them, that we would say like, man, like I had no idea that you were going through that, and now like I have a completely different perspective, and really, like, I don't want to cancel you. What I do want to do is educate you, you know, and because like I know what it is to want to heal and to not have that community.
Yeah, I totally agree with that opinion on cancel culture.
Oh yeah, no, Dimitri's here.
Because I always talk about it. I'm big on like no cancel culture. Like I like, you know, I'm thinking like, you know, with along the lines of like educating people and, you know, trying to reach an understanding. Like, you know, sometimes, you know, you don't agree with somebody, but that doesn't mean you have to cancel them. I mean, you know, there, I mean, but there, and I understand people will say like there are reasons to cancel people, based on like
Sure.
very messed up things, but like, very like,
Yeah.
oh, this person like said a tweet that was very, very, how do I say it? It was well, I guess I can say inappropriate. And it's like, well, just let them know like what they did wrong,
Educate them.
educate them on
Yeah,
what they did
educate 'em.
wrong, and if they take it, they take it. If they don't, they
They
don't.
don't.
But
Yep.
Yeah.
don't cancel them over that. Like I can't stand that.
There was a thing a couple years ago. He was like I don't think he was a CEO, but he was like an executive with Taco Bell, and he was in an Uber, and he got really drunk, and he like lashed out. I think he like attacked the driver or something, and the
Oh
driver
wow.
recorded it, and it hit the internet. And then that dude lost his job. And it's that kind of thing where it's like, this is something where this person was showing toxic behavior. I'm not denying that. At the same time, though, you're now taking food off of this man's plate. You're taking food off of like from a family, that you're stopping somebody doing something. And yes, you could always say that it's for the greater good and everything happens for a reason. However, there's different ways of like showing people things, and so that they can understand and get it. Because like the only reason where I feel like something should be canceled is more so of that, for example, I'm just going to put this out there. Nestle is an unethical company
Mm.
for various reasons. And there is a reason why Nestle's water, when you go to stores to buy 24 packs of water, there's a reason why Nestle's is always the cheapest. And there are different companies that are unethical, and people are too exhausted to even have that conversation. However, if we stop supporting companies because they are unethical, then they have to change. And that's the thing
Thank
is,
you.
I'm
Yeah.
I'm 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 not telling people to just accept everything and say like everybody's okay, and it's okay that this person is hateful. It's okay. No, I'm not saying that. What I'm
Yeah.
saying is that there you can really do something about it, versus just saying this one person is going to define my day and is going to define how the entire world works. No, like, yes, you educate that person, and you look at the companies that you support. You look at who they're invested in. You look at the fact that, and I said this on the radio show, and I can say this with a smile on my face. I'm talking about privatized prisons and hip hop music. That like, you need to know who is invested in privatized prisons, and you need to
Yes.
know that people are
Mm-hmm.
making money off of that,
A lot
and
of
Straight
you need
money.
money.
to like grasp that as a
Yes.
concept, and start thinking like, where's my money going to, who's
Thank
supporting
you.
things like that.
Yeah.
I just seen something about them saying they want to tear down a prison down here in Atlanta. They want to tear it down and actually remodel it to be better. And they said they tried to use they were saying like the conditions that the prisoners are in they live in is the reason why they want to tear it down and rebuild it. But like you said, that these people are investing a lot of money
Right.
in prison, and they're making a lot of money from it, and from the us the taxpayers and stuff. So yes, like you definitely have to know and understand.
Oh man,
Yeah.
that's become one of my focuses is addressing this. I actually just interviewed somebody on my podcast who talks about what it's like for people in the LGBTQ community going into jail, and it's one of those things. It's like not trendy to talk about unless you're talking about in like a song, and you're proving to people that you have credibility. Like it's not pretty, it's not attractive to talk about institutionalization, but it is like there's no other comparison to how people are treated in this system. And when people are shocked as far as like how police are treating people on the outside, when you go inside and when you see how it is on the inside, like
Yeah.
you think it's shocking how police are. Go inside. Like
Mhm.
it's like the Twilight Zone. Like there's no, you can't
Jesus.
describe it. Like you see in the advertised grade A chicken, you don't know that there is grade B, grade C, grade D
Mhm.
chicken. Grade D chicken is being sold, is being given to people in jails. That the drinks and the food that people are eating is like the toxic stuff that the rest of society won't eat. Like
Jesus Christ. Yeah.
correctional facilities. Yeah.
I didn't even
Okay.
think of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's
That's,
crazy.
that's awful.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
And
So,
once again, it's not a popular thing that to talk about, but it's something that needs to be stated. And these
Yeah.
prisons keep getting filled with people that don't deserve to be there. Like you got the FDA and all this kind of stuff. We were talking about that with one of our past guests that don't that lock people up for drug charges, and it's just like it's ridiculous. They marginalize certain communities like African Americans, and then
right.
or people of color, and then you have like and I don't even know, I have no idea about the I'd love to hear more about that on your podcast, specifically about the LGBTQ community and how they feel about incarceration and what they go through. I have no clue at all, but it's just scary all the way around. It's awful.
It's scary. It's scary because like there's so much like helplessness that goes on within that world of like, if you don't have money for a good attorney, or like again, if you don't know the legal system, if like people just know loopholes. And again, I said this kind of at the beginning of this podcast, that I'm always fascinated when people have information and they don't share it. And that's why I'm so
Correct.
big. That's why I'm so big into education, is because like I learn things and I learn about systems and I learn about like information that people have. And I'm like, why are you keeping this to yourself? Like, why are you not sharing this with people? Like, this is valuable information. You think that when you share this, all of a sudden all the money is magically going to fall out from your bank account and you're going to stop making money? That's not how life works. There's abundance for everybody, but like we need to, again, in my personal opinion, I'm not saying everybody needs to do this. Cool, have fun, have a good time, party. If you want to make party music, you want to make stuff for people to have a good time, you want to make movies that are completely and totally wacky, by all means, laugh, have a good time. I'm saying we need to have a balance where people are adding value and they're sharing information so that people can be empowered. Because again, to your point, no, it's not cool to talk about it. However, when you find yourself in circumstances that are difficult and you don't have the community or the people around you to navigate through that, then you can understand. And then by that time, honestly, like it's probably too late.
Yeah, and another thing that you talk about, and I know we're just going back and forth, but it's such an interesting conversation to have. You want to talk about like civil disobedience. You want to talk about protesting, like the biggest protest. If you don't like what's going on with certain specific companies, I don't care how good the chicken sandwich is, stop supporting.
Right.
If you
Yeah.
don't agree with the practices going on at McDonald's, you don't agree with the practices, because I don't. You
Right.
don't agree with the practices of fast food companies marketing to children, and because they have a colorful clown as their marketing strategy. They know that these colors and all of these bright things will attract children, and
Right.
children want the toys, and they're going to bring their parents, and then these kids are going to grow up eating this food that's no good, like you said, this grade D meat, these things that are leading to obesity, leading to metabolic syndrome, leading to all of these things. If you don't agree with it, stop buying it.
Yeah,
You know what I'm
don't-
saying? Stop.
Yeah.
You don't agree with the NFL, stop. You know what I'm saying? Stop going to these games. Stop buying the tickets. Stop buying the jerseys. That is going to make people get off their butts, because what happens? Money is everything.
Yep.
Money
Right.
makes noise. People respond to money. So you want something to happen, you want the government to put money in your pockets, you want, all of this kind of stuff. Stop supporting these companies, stop supporting these businesses, all of that good stuff. And
It's the same. It's the same thing with I want to talk about this. It's the same thing in music. People need to stop clicking videos of Tekashi 6ix9ine. Like, stop clicking videos of Tekashi 6ix9ine. Stop it. Stop it. Because you want to talk about somebody who knows psychology. This dude is a mastermind when it comes to psychology. And
in what way?
Like that he knows, the louder and the more ignorant that he is, the more people will click. I got to see what this clown is just so I can hate on him, just so I can hate on him and keep him going. You're literally funding Tekashi 6ix9ine by
Yeah.
This is
clicking
true.
articles.
Oh,
Hot New Hip Hop, allhiphop.com, all these websites, they keep posting because guess what? The analytics and the data show people
This is
are
true.
clicking the articles. So if
And
you're tired of how the culture of anything is, anything, you literally need to stop
You gotta stop it.
acknowledging that it exists. You need to
Yes.
Yeah.
stop clicking. Please, I
Yes,
promise you, it'll change your
Yeah.
life.
yep,
It'll
and
go away. Yeah.
Yeah,
it's
this
funny that you said that, Nikki, because I was just telling somebody this a while back when they had the rioters at the Capitol. I was telling people, I was like, you guys, you gotta stop watching it
Yeah.
and
Yes.
looking
Uh-huh.
at it, because it's
Yes.
only gaining them more attention the more
Yes.
you watch it, because
Right.
that's what it's set up to do. And
Yeah.
by far, if you got on Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat,
Twitter.
anything, that was the
Anywhere,
first
yeah.
thing you would see before you saw
Mhm.
anything. And I was like, y'all have to stop watching it. And it's
Right.
funny, Nicky, because people were looking at me like I was crazy. And I was not, I was like, I'm so
Yes.
serious. It's like a real thing. I'm not just making this up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I was literally talking to my family about that. I was like, just like everything isn't gloom and like doom. Like stop watching the news. Like
Right.
that is literally what they do. Like and like they looked at me like, you don't watch the news. I'm like, no, I stopped watching it a long time ago. I'm happy now. Like,
Right.
like,
So I'm
like
happy now.
you know, I'm up, you know, and I'm like a big person that's like, you know, about like not advocating for or not sorry, not advocating, but for not funding like things or putting my money towards like things that you know isn't
Damn.
good. Like if
Right.
you know if you don't like the company for whatever they do, like don't support them, don't whatever, don't like go don't boycott them and then go buy their stuff later on. Like just
Right.
don't put money towards them.
You got to stick to it.
Yeah,
Exactly.
like you got to be consistent. Like we were talking about,
Yes.
consistency. Like
Yeah.
circle
Yeah.
back around.
Like the
And
biggest thing. Oh, go ahead, Demetrius. I'm
and
sorry.
like and I was telling people like don't stay away from like you know and I don't like to say this but like if you can avoid as much of that like really like repeated news like get what you need and then stop watching it because like that's all they're doing is continuously tracking this just making you feel like the
Oh,
world
man.
is like gonna like end tomorrow or
It's
something.
Or,
really,
or that one side has it all figured out.
Yes.
Vote for this
Exactly.
person, then this old white politician is gonna make your life
Yep.
better. Whereas this old white politician
Exactly.
isn't. Like, stop. Like, yes.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
please.
I'm 100%
Yes.
with it.
Same team. Same team.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it is
100%.
crazy because you
Yeah.
get the wrong kind of information. It's like you get people out there like me and my guys. You know, we always talk about you know, the public health perspective. You know, the perspective of the scientists. You know, it's like you find that a lot of these people, man, like they are feeding you like in a lot of ways lies. Like it, and it's because mostly people want to appeal to public opinion,
Right.
you know, instead of telling somebody. And that's with everything, you know, it's not just with COVID-19 or whatever.
Right.
It's like people want to appeal to public opinion. So I'll use the NFL as an example. You know, people, you know, they believed in Colin Kaepernick until it was time to watch the game.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
people, you know, believe in COVID-19 until it's time to go to the party, you know what I'm saying? And then
Right.
public health practitioners want to get on television and say stuff like, well, yeah, you know, it's you can go outside during the holidays. Sure, yeah, because
Right.
you know, the 4th of July, you gotta grill, we gotta eat hamburgers, we gotta
Memorial Day, you got to go to the
You-
beach. Yeah.
but after that's over, put on a mask.
Go
What?
back to your
it's-
house.
It's
It's
wacky.
crazy.
I want to in the same kind of conversation, because you talked about science and something came to me. There's a really interesting documentary that's on YouTube. It's like 41 minutes or something like that long, and it's about this scientist, and his name is Dr. Luc Montagnier, and it's French. So it's like Montagnier, I believe. He discovered the HIV, the AIDS virus. And basically what he did, because you talk about like how science and how people go for like popular opinion. So this guy's like, you know, he's elderly, he's like 60, 70, 80 years old. And he was saying that like sound, that you can use sound for healing and for viruses. And they're like, yo, this dude's lost his mind. And so what he did is he recorded, there was AIDS in the water. And so he took an audio recorder and he recorded the water, and then he sent that sound recording off to a lab thousands of miles away, and was like, play this in your water. It's normal, completely and totally unaffected water. Just play it, see what happens. And they're like, this guy's lost his mind. So they played it. And they recreated the entire virus by playing that sound into the water. And he proved you can do this also with cures, and all of these scientists were trying to stop him because he's showing like what goes beyond science and religion are slowly, and more so spirituality, are slowly starting to come together. Scientists are now saying trees have heartbeats. That these scientists were trying to stop him because he's showing like sound frequency can actually heal you, and sound frequency can actually hurt you, and that you need to understand this as a concept, and it's that, again, that's where social media is a powerful tool, but you need to you really need to know the source, because I like conspiracies. I'm hooked on ancient aliens. I love
You like ancient aliens?
I've been to there's a really interesting thing called Contact in the Desert, and Contact in the Desert is like next level ancient aliens, where you're talking with people who've dedicated their life to this. And I like that kind of stuff because when I understand that there are parallel universes, and then I have somebody showing me like the actual photos of the other side of the moon, and showing me photos of Mars, and there's like formations in Mars that looks like a gigantic parrot, and there's other parts where it looks like there was like homes or like apartment complexes in certain areas, that and they're telling crazy stories of like how there's teams that like black out certain areas, and if you turn up the contrast, you can actually see stuff that's like proven, not like wacky stuff, but people who really have dedicated their life to this, that like when we dropped an atomic bomb, that like we opened up portals for like darker energy, and just like a lot of like really fascinating stuff. I get into that because then when all of this crazy stuff happens, I'm like, oh, okay, cool, there's a bigger thing that's going on, and none of us know why we're here. So if none of us know why we're here, if we don't know the depth and the depth of the depth, that is the depth at the root of the root of the root, if none of us know that, then we might as well have the blank canvas and create our own world and make it what we want to, instead of being somebody telling us like we can do this and we can't do that. No, sorry, you don't even know why we're on this earth for. So.
No, and I definitely agree, because the one constant about science, the one thing we can know for certain, is that there's a lot of uncertainty, which is that we don't know. There's a lot that we don't know, and especially when you talk about the universe, like I said, there's the unknown. You know what I'm saying? There's so much that we can't even go. We're never going to see in our lifetimes.
Right.
So and we also know that another thing with the Food and Drug Administration, the thing with physicians and pharmacies and big pharma, it's a business at the end of the day,
Right,
and there's
correct.
a lot of things. Yeah, and there's a lot of things that will be blocked, that are natural medications or herbal medications. You know why? Because it's hard to make money off of it. It's hard to profit. If you're telling me that I could grow something in my front yard and I don't have to know how to genetically manipulate something, and I could just grow it straight out the ground and use it, and I don't have to have passed a 12th grade education, great for me,
Right.
bad for you, because I don't have to rely on you to go purchase it. I could just make it myself and it's all good. Well, wrong. That's not what
how we do
Big Pharma wants. No, that's not what Big Pharma wants. So unfortunately, we were kind of in this situation, and it's sad because like we were talking about one of our previous guests, you have a lot of things that are just grow straight up out of the ground in nature, like a lot of herbal remedies, or a lot of medications that are psychoactive and things like that we just that are proven. There are studies.
You're speaking my language, and this is why, like, when I live in New York, what I love about New York is how it's a melting pot. And like I would tell people, I'm like, yo, like you Harlem, for example, where you get people that are from Africa, like the stuff that they sell on the street that like are in trendy Whole Foods, like the Black African soap that's in Whole Foods is very, very different than what they're selling like on the corner, right?
Oh
This,
yeah.
I would rather
Yeah.
go get the stuff on the
Yeah.
corner because that's the real deal.
Yep,
That's like the
the real
stuff that
deal.
will remove the acne and all of that stuff. And that I've always
Yeah.
been a seeker and really like the secret sauce to who I am is because of shamanism, of because of ceremonies, of that I went into a ceremony and I did ayahuasca and I got like 15 years of therapy in an 8-hour session. Now that's not something that is for everybody. Do your research. Don't just jump into something because it's cool and trendy. For me, like I do what I do because I'm a teacher at the root. Like I have to share with people. I have to keep on. It's in my roots. It's in my DNA. They're like I enjoy sharing and educating people. But you know, to your point, I did what doctors said couldn't be done after I went through accidents and after I had trauma and stuff through Eastern medicine, through African medicine, through holistic healing. Thank God.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the truth is, Nikki, a lot of the times, how can I put this? There's, you know, you have these, and once again, it's something that we've talked about over and over again. You have these titles, you know, I'm a physician, I'm a chemist, I'm a scientist, but at the end of the day, sometimes these professionals just don't know. And I can't sit there in my profession and tell you that I don't know. So
Right.
what can I tell you? Something that I do know. But we talked about this with one of our guests, you know, when you go far enough in a career, let's say I start off, right? And I'm in college and I'm studying chemistry, biology, physics, and I'm studying all the basics. I know about earth science. I know about biological science. I know about neuroscience, right? Well, as I'm getting older and older and going through the ranks, I'm looking at something very specific. So let's say like where I am right now, I'm looking at something extremely specific. I might only be studying one part of the brain and that's it. Well, that's where my realm of knowledge is. I don't really know anything else, you know. So if you got a guy and you go to a eyes, ears, mouth, and throat doctor, that's all they know. That's all they can tell you. You know, you go to a guy that that studies neurology or studies the eye or a specific part of the body. That's all that they know. So at the end of the day, you almost can't blame them.
Right.
You can't. Of course, you can do research about something. They'll tell you that, oh yeah, you'll never be able to do this or never be able to do that. Sometimes you can't really say that because they don't know. So, I mean, you can't really blame the physicians in that aspect. But yeah, no, Nick, you're completely right. And that's,
What's the thing with doctors for like nutrition or something? Like what is it like? They're given like no kind of training on there's something that's like a basic thing. Like if you talk to a doctor that like they only like doctors, it's so fascinating because like they know what they know, and then like they can't recommend things naturally and diet because like they're really not taught like that aspect at all.
No, because you have, like, let's say you have a doctor that's an MD. MD's education versus a DO is completely different. A DO is like a doctor of osteopathic medicine. So basically you have a doctor that's based in therapeutics when it comes to like medication. So so let's say I have a headache. Okay, great. I'll prescribe this to you and I'll send you on your way. Versus you go to a DO, a doctor of osteopathic medicine. You say the same thing. I have a headache. Okay, well, let's sit down and talk about it. What's going on in your life? Why do you have a headache? What are you eating? What's your diet? Those are the doctors that pay attention to that stuff specifically.
Interesting.
So yeah, so what's out there? There's naturopathic doctors. There are doctors. That's why when people talk about they don't like specific types of doctors or how physicians handle things, well, there are specific doctors that pay attention to that.
Yeah,
So
you have choices. I like to go to Chinatown and get
you have choices.
the needles poked in. You know what I'm saying? Like that's my thing to what's that called?
Acupuncture.
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 Yeah. Acupuncture is
Mm.
dope. It's like 5,000 years old.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how does that make you feel after you get out of like what is the feeling like? I've never even thought
Um,
about trying it.
Grounding. What's interesting conceptually with acupuncture is it's really about like your energy. It's more so about, and again, I'm not like an expert on this, so don't like quote me or whatever, but it's more so of what I like about it, how it was explained to me, is that it's about like keeping the flow, like your blood flow, your energy flow within your body. So like when you might have an ailment, it might be because there's like a blockage internally, and that when you apply to this certain point, it
Mm.
opens up the flow and can open up for like pain, for stress, for anxiety, for like different like personal issues and things of that nature. I did it after I was involved in an accident, because Katie, I just want to say Katie is such a great source of information, and like when it comes to self-care, like she's about like one of like the smartest, wisest people that I know. Like I got involved in an accident, and she was like, you have $10,000 med pay, so like you can get massages and everything that exists under the sun for $10,000. And I'm like, word, we're going holistically shopping right now, let's go. So
So put
I am
that on the shirt.
stressed.
Right.
I am stressed out, and you know, because at the same time, like it's real, because again, when you get involved with matters of like where your body physically hurts, there's always a like a mental thing that goes with it. So acupuncture is good as far as like restoring your flow,
Yeah.
because again, a lot of times, like from the diet, from the foods that we have, there are blockages, and there's things like we carry like 10 pounds of 15 pounds of like waste inside of our body. So like we need to clean out our guts, which is really like our gut is our mind. It's kind of like the same thing, that like we need to clean that out so that we can keep this sharp and you know, aligned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh no,
And
completely.
yeah, like, but yeah, I think it's interesting how you brought up natural things and acupuncture, and I always thought it was funny how medicine companies say this plasticky pill is going to cure pain,
Right.
when I can like basically take 10 aspirins and my back still hurts, but if I take some black seed oil or something natural,
Yep.
my back feels fine. So
Yep.
this is, but the thing is, the pills, but it's almost like I think of it as like professional and natural. It's like they got this business that's saying, yeah, you can get this pain taken care of, and it does all these things and has all these facts on the back. But people get it because it's cheap and available. But you
Right.
got the natural stuff that does all these things, but is
Right.
more expensive and nobody knows.
Also a lot of times, like in aspirin and different stuff, there are natural ingredients that they
Right.
put in there that they combine with
Mm-hmm.
it. So it's like, yeah, I mean, I've talked about this before, because I had never ever taken a prescription pill before ever in my life. And several years ago, I went to a therapist. I'm like, I just want to see what's up, because like I know my stuff, like and even though like I had come a long way with breakthroughs, I still felt incomplete. I still felt frustrated. And the doctor told me that you know, she's like, you, because I was like, I think I have ADHD. I think that, you know, like I'm having difficulty focusing. And she was like, no, you're depressed. You have trauma. You're depressed, and so you need to take these pills. And I took
Mm.
Wellbutrin for a couple months, and I, it helped temporarily, and then I did not like the way that I felt. I'm like, oh, this, because I've never done a hard drug ever in my life, and I was like, oh, this
Mm.
is how people who do coke feel, like, where you feel like you're invincible and you're like unstoppable. I'm like, I don't need this illusion. I'm good. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and I was able to holistically do things and go to therapy and heal myself that way.
No, and that's a perfect example right there. You know, because there's always, I think there's a place 100%, because I have family that are and friends that are physicians. You know, I went to school with a lot of very brilliant doctors, and they know what they're doing. I will say that, but there's a place for it because there's something to be said about going to the doctor, like you said, with one problem and coming out with something else, like let's say drug dependency, or you just like with a lot of like with drugs like fentanyl or things, opioids, that you just can't get off. So that's a whole other situation. Or going in, let's not even talking about that, like going into the doctor's office with let's say high blood pressure or hypertension, and now you take high blood pressure medication that your body's used to now. So, and you get crazy withdrawals if you try to get off of it, and your body reacts because it's used to that kind of medication,
Right.
To where you could have done something like change your eating style, exercise more, which like I said, there's a place for it. There are types of doctors that work with those sort of things. But no, Nikki, I felt the same kind of way because me and my brother went through that, having like ADHD and stuff like that. It's not always something that a pill or some kind of medication can take care of. It's like there's other ways around things. That's pretty much what I'm saying.
Medication can be good for some people, but again, it's a tricky conversation.
It's a tricky one
because I'm not saying people should stop taking their medication. What I'm
no
your research. Okay, so one of the things I wanted to talk about in this world of wellness, what I'm doing to kind of combat all of this is the music that I'm going to be beats that I've made have frequencies in them, but the music that I'm going to be releasing actually has quantum physics in it, quantum science. The company is called Subtle Energy Sciences, and through a friend of mine. Yeah, check them out. The technology is amazing. It's really like, I feel like I talk to Albert Einstein every time I talk with this cat. He's really he's a good person. He was introduced to me. We have a friend in Los Angeles. He has a company named Starfire Water. Starfire Water is structured water. It's really fascinating. You want to talk about water and what's possible with water and our body of water. So he introduced me to this company, and I was like, well, I want to bring science into music. I think science is dope. I think science is awesome. And I want to do something cool and creative. And I feel like there's a lot of stimulation. I don't think people realize how they've been having negative frequencies and kind of like audio attacks in certain regards, and that we need to do something so people can enjoy the music they listen to. I love hip hop music. I love trap. I love the culture. I love, really, again, like I said at the beginning, I love everyone's culture. For me, it's more so of the investors. It's the people that are making money off of these things that aren't part of the authentic aspect of these cultures. And so, I'm what I'm doing, and it's actually already being done. Major Maejor is a producer. He's worked with like Justin Bieber and a lot of different people. He's putting frequencies in his music. And so what Katie and I are doing, we're the collective, the Sophisticated Psychos. What we're doing with everything is we're partnering up with Subtle Energy Sciences, so that beyond when you listen to the song, you're like, oh, this is a cool song. Actually, the more you listen to it, the better you feel. And we're going to start putting this more so into the music and into the audio that we're doing, to help people. And there's actual research behind this science. So it's really cool stuff. And I'm excited to start releasing music with Subtle Energy. It's pretty dope.
Nice. Hey man, I didn't know this was going to turn into a science podcast. I'm liking this.
Oh man, whenever he talks science, he's like, yes.
Yeah, Chad activates every time you talk about science.
Activates. I'm supercharged, but definitely, Nicky. Oh, go ahead, Josh. What's up, man?
I mean, no, Chad. What, you were gonna say something?
No. You're good. Ahead. What's up?
All right. Well, but yeah, Nicky. How do you know what frequency to use in your music to know that it's like specifically for healing? Like,
so I go more. So basically, like, I go more by by the sound, and like I'm not musically trained. I don't know music theory. For me, it's
Oh
more
wow.
so like I know
Hmm.
that I know the way, I know keys, I know sound, and again, like I do my research, and it's a lot of, when it comes to things of the ethereal world, there you really have to go down a deep dive. So basically what I started doing, because I've done sound bowls, I've done meditations, right? And a lot of us know about Dr. Emoto, who talked about if you say love to water, and then if you say hate to water, it actually changes the structure of the water, right? So
Hmm.
everything is frequency. Actually, in the tech world, in San Francisco, they're using sound frequency for levitation, and it's actually the same frequency that resonates in the pyramids of Egypt. Okay, so this is all. I'm of the world of ethereal. I'm also big into facts. I'm also big into, like, when I share something with people, there's actual research behind it. So they've done research with different sound frequencies to heal people, and it's helped people. So I actually started doing some research on this, and I stumbled on in Reddit. There was a thread where this person was talking about XXX Tentacion, RIP, that he gave interviews. He did an interview with academics where he talked about, he's like, in my music I can make you travel, I can make you have like lucid dreams and stuff if I want to. He talked about like sound frequency and stuff, and then somebody broke down different songs that he made are in certain sound frequencies, so you feel a certain way when you listen to the music. So then what I did was I went down a rabbit hole to find out for each musical note, like what's the frequency of C, what's the frequency of like D flat, D major, C sharp, and then I found the actual mathematical tone from there, and then I found the actual tones, created the energetic tones, and then what I do is I tune the song to that frequency, and then I enhance that frequency within the sounds, within the drums, within the claps, within the snares, within the melodies, so that it is a subtle thing. It's not like when you go into YouTube, if you type in meditation, it's a little bit more intense. This is like
Right.
a kind of like a subtle thing. So you listen to it, you're like, oh, this beat's pretty dope. It feels good. I'm not like Grammy Award winning engineer yet. I'm not there yet. What I am doing is really like it's a raw thing. And again, it's the same way when rock and roll came out, when hip hop came out, it started off raw, and it built. And thankfully I have a team, and I have people around me, and people that get what I'm doing, and are helping and building it. But for me, I want to bring the world of meditation, of wellness, of yoga, of Eastern philosophies and science. I just like to connect things. I like to bring people together. I like to connect things. I like to show people the commonalities within things so that they can get past the illusion and just unveil, right? And so there's that. So within the beats that I'm making now, I want to and another part of me, who I am, is I like to do things for people that are curious, that aren't in yet. So when you talk about meditation and wellness, you have a whole community of people. You go to like LA, you have people in Venice Beach that do ceremonies, that take shrooms, that meditate, that do
Yeah.
kundalini yoga, and they get all of that stuff, and it's a whole language, right? I'm not doing it for those people. I want for those people to be like, cool, like we have a voice, we have a person. I'm doing it for the people that are living in like really bad parts of town, that feel certain things. When I was living in the projects, I would hang out with people that were tuned in and were observant and were really, I'm like, yo, like you're more powerful than you realize. Like there's ways where you can enhance this intuition that you have, and you know that you have it. You just don't have people around you that are telling you this. But like there's things that you can do that my ancestors used to do, that your ancestors used to do. And that was like the jam. It was like, yo, let's get together. Let's talk about philosophy. Let's evolve. And so for me, I want to bring this to the forefront. I feel like it's the next wave that the world is really focused on sound. You have the Clubhouse app where it's all audio, audio, audio. And again, in science, there is more research and data that is perplexing scientists, that sounds very hippie-ish. And so I thought, like, I want to, because people know that they're being attacked. People know that there's fake news, and that there's division, and there's all this stuff. So I'm doing something to say, like, I want to give you something so that regardless, like when you listen to it, you feel good. I want to give you content so that when you listen to it, you feel good. And at the same time, I want to show you how dope education is. I want to show you that, like, when you
Yes.
really know the real truth, the truth of the truth, not like the edited, revised, like marketable truth. But when you really know what's possible out there, that like you get freedom, you get peace within that.
Man,
Yeah.
that's a lot of good stuff, man. I
Yeah.
definitely can't wait to get that number one so I can start listening, and definitely so we can share it to our audience, man, for real. Because
Yeah,
especially in
definitely.
times like these, we need that, man. Seriously.
Exactly.
No, for
Mhm.
Yeah.
real.
But
I have the playlist on the sophisticatedpsychos.com, on yonickeyscorpio.com. I have beats that I make
Nice.
for everybody. I have like wavy kind of like vibe out playlists. I have the I'm angry playlist, because for me, like, people think meditation is like some intense serious thing, and like, yo, I meditate when I'm on the subway. Like, I meditate when
Yep.
I'm like just hanging out and I have 2 minutes to go into like a Zoom meeting. Like, before this, I had like this client that I was dealing with that had like that was anxious about stuff, and I'm like, I gotta go into a meeting with some like dope guys that are doing something cool, so I need to take 60 seconds, set an intention, and center myself and get myself into a good place, you know. So for me, I want to get the young, the young, like the kids that are like 17, 18, 19 to like 24, 25, in kind of like that realm, are so dope because they don't. And it's funny having conversations with like older people, because they think younger kids are disrespectful. No, they don't subscribe. They don't subscribe to your channel. They don't share your beliefs. They know that we're in a broken system, and that's my vibe. Like, I get it. And so for me, I'm doing it for those people that are like young and just get that this is a broken system, and are like, I want to do something about it, and I want to be more powerful. So if you check out yonickeyscorpio.com, I have at the bottom, I have playlists with different beats, and I'm building and I'm releasing the song every day. I'm gonna have a new song tomorrow. I'm gonna keep it going and
Nice.
just building it.
Hey.
Yeah.
Cool,
hey,
Consistency.
cool.
for sure.
That's
But
that consistency, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
The key.
exactly,
It
because
is.
Got to.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Because like I checked out your Instagram page, and like it seems like you just post multiple times a day.
Word. Again, and this is what's dope about education, because again, for anybody out there who's introverted, who feels like they're wrong because society says that you should be outgoing and upbeat, like, no, you have a gift that, like, you can stay and you can focus on something for hours. Like, you know, like you're editing, you're gonna have to edit this podcast. Somebody needs to go out and talk with people. That's the extroverted person. You need to network and develop relationships. That's dope. That's important. At the same time, if that person who's extroverted doesn't have anything to actually hand people, they're not going to be able to
Yes.
go anywhere. And that's where the introvert comes in handy, right? So it's a gift. We don't have to be outgoing and upbeat and put on a smiley face all the time. Like, it's a gift to be like super quiet and only have like a close circle of friends, and to be able to like hone in and zone in on something for hours. It's like a meditative process. It's dope.
No,
Yes,
you
for
know,
sure.
it really is like, and I would just love to liken that to what I have, you know what I'm saying, as far as being a part of the Square Roundtable podcast. You know, we all don't have similar strengths, but the different strengths that we have, like, all kind of, you know, they all go into the big picture. Like, for instance, you know, I'm the guy that, you know, does the reach out to people to get people to come on the show. You know, Dmitri is like a, you know, technical wizard when it comes to putting these videos together. You know, like, he makes it to where we look like we're perfect. You know, like Marcus is like the creative genius behind all of our videos, man, behind our content on our social media. You know, Joshua's, you know, the artist, you know, and he's the guy that backs me up, you know, with questions and topics and all that kind of stuff. And we even have Peyton, who is a part of the Square on Table podcast that nobody sees, and she's behind the scenes. She writes the scripts for all of us, you know.
Secret
So it's
weapon.
just
Love that.
yeah. So shout out to her. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We have like William, who wrote the song, our Square Round podcast song, you
That's
know.
dope.
So it's just like, yeah, and it's just
Yeah.
like a big, you know, bowl of people. And now you guys, you know, you and Katie are a part
Word.
of the squad now, man, and you guys have so much like
Yeah.
creative, you know, everything. We just can't wait to pour into you guys, and the same, and vice versa, you know.
Man.
So, and everybody has, you know, their different strengths, and, you know, yeah, some people are more introverted than others, some people are more extroverted than others, but at the end of the day, you know, it comes together as something special, man. And like, I just appreciate all of it.
The squad, the community,
Yes.
the
Yes.
community. That's like
Yes.
such a big important thing. That, like, there's a documentary, it's called Happy. It might still be on Netflix, but it's called Happy, and it talks about the psychology of happiness, and it goes around to all these different parts of the world. And the happiest place actually in the world is this remote little village in India. And it's simply because they have each other, that it is very poor. India is a very beautiful place, and you will experience poverty. You will see poverty if you go there. It's like simple things like clean drinking water. It's tough, and it's changing. That they have one another to be able to say like, hey, I'm having a rough day, and it's a simple thing, but like that's the one thing. Like if I could leave this planet, if it's like there's one thing that I brought to this world, it would just for people to be like, community is the most important thing. That it's okay to be alone. You can get power in solitude. However, we're not meant to be alone, and that we need to check in on our friends, on our brothers, our sisters, our families, and we need to stick together and find ways to stay together, because that's how we're designed, you know.
Yep.
No, completely,
Sure. But
100%.
oh
Go
yeah,
ahead, Josh.
definitely. But yeah, Nikki, one burning question I had is how important is a beat tag, a beat tag, like
Oh,
because I hear
man.
on all your beats you have like the yo Nicky Scorpio
Yeah.
thing.
Yo,
so.
Nicky Scorpio.
So I had another one that was a little bit more laid back, and then I was like, well, that's not really who I am. People get surprised when I say I'm an introvert. I'm like, when I get excited about things, like I can definitely talk. However, like if you meet me in person, I'm reading your energy, I'm listening to you, then I'm like, all right, cool, like you're on the guest list, or I'm going to another venue. That
I like that.
you know, Katie has such a great voice. I actually met Katie's voice before I met her face. It's a really, really interesting story. That she was doing spoken word poetry in the studio next to mine in Hell's Kitchen when we met. That I've always loved and admired her voice, and was like, the really cool thing about Katie is that she adds, like, if for me, like she's the definition of spirit. Like when, like our spirits, we all have beautiful spirits, and our spirits translate and are seen in different ways. Our spirits are all very, very beautiful, and they're all pure. That she has a innocence about her that for me, as a human being, I want to preserve and to celebrate and protect from people who just like the idea of it but don't know what to do with it. And she is an example of why I tell people that you need to have good people around you. I have had so many different like self-image issues, insecurities, wacky haircuts, like not even knowing what I'm doing in life, ups and downs, lows and highs, good people, bad people, and she still like is rooting for me like a kid, just like go and just having that, man, it's again, it's a secret ingredient. There's books that are written about this where you have good people around you. The secret to a lot of successful people is they grew up around people that were like, you're enough, you're good enough, you're good enough. So that's a long answer. The short answer is the beat tag is definitely crucial. I feel like it embodies the spirits of the beats, where I'm like, I just want for people to be like, all right, I've been depressed, I've been beaten down, okay, I've had anxiety, okay, cool, this has been fun being in this like moodiness and just brooding in that. That's cool. I'm just gonna get up now and I'm just gonna choose happiness, and nobody's gonna define that for me, and nobody's gonna tell me what my limits are to happiness, or how my happiness should look like, or who I should love, or how I should love, or how I should dress, or that like I'm less marketable or more marketable than this person or that person. I'm just gonna be happy, and if I look crazy doing it, cool, because we're all nuts.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah, exactly, man. Exactly. And one thing about Katie though, man, like she has like a glowing review like of like Nicky Scorpio, man. Like when we were talking to her, she was just like, yeah, you guys gotta talk to Nicky. You guys got. And by the end of it, I'm just like, who is Nicky Scorpio? I'm like, who is I'm like, who is this person? And when can I talk to him?
Right?
Yeah, shout out to her and her podcast. She's all over
Straight
the
up.
place, and you know, again, I'm glad that I have had patience and that I've been okay with being who I am, because having someone like Katie in my life is a rare gem. And it's nice to have people around you, because again, I know what my flaws are. Like, I'm very, very aware, and I'm always evolving and working on them. However, I'm also very human, and 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 I've learned, really, because I've been in so many different environments, that I'm really I did a podcast with this woman, Sonia Pateka, and she talks about the human design, which is really fascinating. And I'm a manifesting generator. And I've always known that I can manifest, but putting it in words and like showing me my strengths and my weaknesses and how I operate was so powerful for me. And that I've communicated with Katie that every time that I've made magic happen, like I told you that story earlier with my management team, that I was seeing myself with a management team. I was seeing myself with people around me who just celebrate and uplift me. Every time I break bread, every time I say a prayer, when Katie and I are together, when we eat, I always say, like, thank you for keeping me around people who celebrate and uplift me. Thank you for the good people around us. That's really important to me. Loyalty is very important to me, but who she is someone who, like, she will see the pureness and the greatness within people in such a beautiful way. And it's yeah, you just gotta slow down with the company you keep, man. You gotta be aware of, like, the people around you, because we're all artists here, man. We just all want to create, and we don't realize, like, some people are not getting who we are at a human level. And we need to have people like Katie around us, and people who are like, all right, I'm going to call you out if you're acting like a jerk. I'm going to call you out if you're acting rude. At the same time, though, like, I got your back. If somebody is going to put you down, I got your back, and I stand by you. And, like, I'm rooting for you. That's dope, man. We make magic happen that way.
Yes.
Hey, that's really good stuff. And like you said, you gotta just look out for the type of people that we have around you. And like, I know I speak for everybody when I say that we are so glad to have Katie and you as a part of what we're doing. And
Yeah.
you guys are awesome, man. You're a good guy, Nikki. We're just,
Yeah.
Thank
Oh
you. I
yeah.
appreciate
it's
you.
been a pleasure, man. It's
Yeah.
been such a pleasure talking
Yeah.
to
You
you.
guys
It
are so you
has.
guys are so dope, man. Thank you. You guys are so cool, man. Like, I'm really good at reading people, and you guys, like, you're good. You're good people, man. Like, I'm grateful. I'm grateful for the opportunity, and you definitely have a good collective here, and a great thing. So for me, it's a pleasure and an honor to be, part of the community. And I see you guys in, any way I can always help and add value. I'm in it to win it.
Hey, definitely, man.
Hey.
Vice versa. We're
Yes.
definitely
Oh
here for
yeah.
you too. We
Same.
all a team now, so
Yeah.
Appreciate
we're in this
Yeah.
thing together, man.
Yeah.
But yes, Nikki. Before you go, man, I definitely want you to tell all our viewers and listeners where they can find you. Number one, on social media, where they can find Katie, and about you guys' separate podcast and your show that's a part of majorsonmusic.com now. So just let
Yeah.
them know all of that stuff.
Yeah, the first and foremost, to keep it in the family, definitely, the Sophisticated Psychos experience is definitely just that. It's very new. I'm very excited to keep releasing more content. So any dope artists out there, creative people that are comedians and people that are storytellers, reach out to us, because we're always looking for ways to you listen to an episode, you'll get it. It's definitely something different and something cool and modern, and a variety show. So you definitely check out the Sophisticated Psychos experience. You can hit me up if you need a friend, if you have a story, if you need like a safe space, if you're looking for somebody where, like, your life is crazy, I just need somebody who doesn't really know me like that, just to, like, reach out. We're all human. You can hit me up on Instagram, yo Nicky Scorpio, nickyscorpio.com. Will link you to my page on the sophisticatedpsychos.com, which is really our production company, which is everything that we do around mental health, wellness, education. I do my video editing thing, and my graphic designing thing, and I'm there as well as a freelance if you need a creative eye. And you can definitely check out Katie at She's All Over the Place podcast. It is for people who are not only big into education, but she has episodes with people that if you're looking to grow on social media, if you're looking to get into different careers, like into voiceover, into podcasting, she does a thing where she like locks in with people's energy and she gets information like nobody else. Oh, it's very, very insightful. It's good content. And, you know, lastly, I just want to say that, you know, again, we need to be aware of who we're supporting. We need to be aware of where our energy goes, that we need to be aware of the company that we keep. We need to really understand that we are powerful, powerful, powerful human beings, that really, truly, we can do anything, that we can make anything happen. And we can do it when we start really telling ourselves that we're good enough, that we are worthy. And when we start sharing that message with other people. So that's it. Peace and love.
Definitely.
Hey.
That's a great
Oh,
message
yeah.
to end out
Yes.
on, man.
Yeah, well said.
And for all of our viewers and listeners out there, no worries. We'll put all of Nikki's information in the description below. So once again, guys, what time is it?
Shameless
Shameless
promotional.
Yes, so it is time for our weekly shameless promotional, and we are the Score Roundtable podcast. You can catch us every Friday on majorzonmusic.com at 10 a.m. Pacific time, 12 p.m. Central time, and 1 p.m. Eastern time.
And you can catch us on YouTube on Fridays at any time. And if you like the video, smack the like button, comment on anything that came on that happened in this podcast, like anything. We were everywhere on this podcast.
Yes.
Like, if you agree with us, you know, tell us you agree. If you disagree, let us know, and let us know your favorite part. You know, we'll be in the comment section. We'll be talking. Also, subscribe if you love all the content here, or if you don't and you're one of those people, you can subscribe too. Follow us on Instagram, Square Roundtable 1, and on Twitter at Square Roundtable. And follow us on Facebook in our Facebook group. We definitely need people to talk to there.
Oh yeah, we need
Please
some more
talk to
people.
us. Please. Please talk to us.
Yeah,
Yes,
Tom,
definitely.
bump them up in the algorithm. Tom, stop playing games.
Right, there you go,
Right?
exactly.
Oh wait, no, that's MySpace. I said Tom.
Oh,
Not
that-
Mark. Exactly.
Oh,
And all these guys.
Same
All right.
thing.
Look,
Same
of them.
thing. All of them. Bump them up in the algorithm. Stop playing games.
Yes.
Exactly.
And also on our Instagram page, guys, you know, interact with us too. With our reels and stuff. We just started doing that. So, you know, comment on the reels, let us know what you think, give us ideas, you know, interact with us. So yeah.
Exactly. All that good stuff, guys. So that's all good stuff, man. And what I would like everybody to do before we sign out is introduce themselves one more time. And that's even including our wonderful guest for this evening. So my name is Chad Singleton.
Dimitri.
Josh Singleton.
Marcus.
Scorpio.
Oh,
This is-
like that.
hey,
right?
that's
I like it.
That's timing. Ooh.
I got somebody. I pay for that. I keep him on salary.
See, you need to let us know what your guy's name is. We need that too.
We need
So-
that, yeah.
So I have your people meet with my people. We'll talk about it. But this has been the Square Roundtable, guys. Peace. We are out.